Actual board review for January 23rd, 2023. We'll start with the first item on the agenda, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Go ahead and take a roll call. Board Member Moore.
Here.
Board Member Six.
Here.
Board Member Anderson.
Here.
Board Member Black.
Here.
Board Member Noon.
Here.
And Board Member Whalen.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
So first item on today's general business, we will be electing chair and vice chair for 2023. So the first order of business is now to open up the floor for nominations for chair and vice chair. So
I nominate Mr. Moore.
I'll second the nomination.
Yes.
So we can take a
Close the
vote.
nominations.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, let's go to a vote.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Board Member Moore.
Yes.
You can abstain if you want.
Awkward, yes.
Board Member Six.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And thank you. And now on to vice chair election.
I would like to nominate Member Six for the position.
Second.
I accept.
Hearing no other alternatives, we will also take a vote on that really quick.
Thank you. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore.
Yes.
Board Member Six.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Election should be that easy.
And then now, last order of business by staff is to appoint ABR consent review schedule for the upcoming year. Up on the screen is the previous year's schedule for reference. But again, it's open for change.
Chair Moore, under discussion, now that we only have 6 of us, and Mr. Black was, here quite often, but if it's okay with Mr. Black to cover for either Olson or mix it up any other way, so that's a lot of load on him to not only do a 2-month stint, and also cover landscape, but unless somebody else comes along, that would be a solution.
Yep.
Right, so everybody would take a 2-month rotation. Do we want to do that consecutively, or do we want to break it up into a 1 month early at a time?
I think what we have there now is
Does that work?
Yeah,
works.
although I know that I'm going to be gone a good part of September out of town. So if I want to trade, I could trade off with somebody at some point, but
Well, we would just,
pointing that out, but
does either, well, yeah, okay.
well, does anybody else have the availability in September? For instance, Mr. Vice Chair Six or Ms. Anderson, are you interested in swapping?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Excellent. So we have more Whalen for January and February. in July, August. Does that work for you, Mr. Whalen?
It does.
Okay, and then we'll have Ms. Anderson for May, June, September, October.
Sure.
Okay, and then
And Mr. Black for the same.
and Mr. Black will do May, June, November, December. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
it's good.
excellent.
If I may, on that,
Yeah.
I hope that we're all actively recruiting a 8th member, 7th member, and because I think we work better and with more.
Sure.
And if anybody out in the audience would like to apply, if anybody out in the audience would like to apply for a position. All right, enough said.
Yeah. Is there any news from staff on another?
No news. I can report back at next meeting if you would like.
Okay, great. Okay, on to public comment. Do we have any public?
Thank you, Chair Moore. I don't have any virtual participants, and we don't have any speaker slips. We did receive one written correspondence today, which was distributed to the board prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and go on to approval of the minutes for December 12th. Seems long ago.
Long ago, I reread them, and they're fine.
Okay.
Second?
Was that a motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Ms. Anderson. Any discussion? We're a little out of practice.
I know.
No discussion? Okay, let's take our vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
That's a motion and a second. I can heartily support, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and the consent calendar for the 19th of December.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had item A, Shoreline Drive. This was a proposal to restore the Japanese garden at Torrey Gate that received project design approval and final approval. We had item B, 513 De La Vigne Street, conversion of a commercial building to hotel units, and that received final approval with the comment that the applicant shall verify and delineate the number of species of plants on the plans.
Okay.
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion? Nope. Let's take our vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and the 17th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had item A, 111 North La Cumbre Road, proposal to remodel an existing apartment building. Final approval was granted with the following comments. Light fixtures needed to be noted, and railings also needed some detailing as well.
All right. Somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay, you can vote.
Thank you. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Any announcements, et cetera, from staff?
No announcements from staff.
Okay. Any future agenda items from board members? Any?
Yeah, yes,
Thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
have a brief report on, I'm a member of the Santa Barbara Airport Expansion Phase 2. The committee is represented by all design review boards in the county. I'm this board's representative for some reason. And we had our second meeting. We were presented with 3 schemes that were developed by an architect with Fred Sweeney Consulting on it. We gave extensive comments. We've seen these schemes now 3 times, and we have a third meeting. I believe it's scheduled for this week, where I'm not sure how the county planner or the city planner is going to present those comments, whether it's going to be in one scheme or we're going to continue to have 3 schemes. But it will go through the review process with the city and be presented to the city council, I believe, for a final decision from the airport director. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any?
Chair, to the rest of the board as well, sorry for not pointing this out earlier. Under general business on the agenda, we have appointment of consent review representatives and also of
Subcommittees.
subcommittees as well. I was told to postpone that item, the subcommittees in specific, till the next hearing, so we will do that at the next full board ABR hearing.
Okay. All right, well, with that, I think we can close general business and move on to item 1. Come on down. All right, this is a continued item here for project design approval. It's 701 North Maple Street. And this is a proposal for a new 4-story mixed-use AUD project on a 1.52 acre lot. The project consists of 1,365 square feet of commercial space, 82 residential units, amenities, business center, conference rooms. The project includes 110 parking spaces, and the project received approval is requested, and the project requires compliance with Planning Commission Resolution number 003-22 and the project compatibility analysis, and we last saw this September 6th of 2022. Welcome back. If you could introduce yourselves, and if we could have our minutes or motion from the last time, that would be helpful.
One moment, Chair.
Great. Is there anything from staff before we jump in?
No, I don't have any comments. I'm just here if there are any questions later. Thanks.
Okay. Could just familiarize ourselves, refamiliarize ourselves. Okay, are we all up to speed? All right. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Elijah Pierce. I am representing the architect from RRM Design Group.
And I'm Jarrett Gorn from Vanguard Planning, representing the ownership.
Right. So thank you very much. Today, I think you guys have seen the list of comments from last time, and we thank you very much for kind of giving us a clear path forward. So I thought we would just dive into those. So there's been a variety of changes, most center around the Milpas Street facade. And so I thought we'd walk through those and then how the different changes reflect some of the comments that we received last time. So this is the revised Milpas Street facade. One of the first items that we looked at was varying the parapets. So if you recall, there is a roof deck up on this 4th level. And previously we had had a fairly consistent parapet running around that roof deck. We have now shown a variety of variations on that parapet. So we have the sloped curved parapets along the corner for that corner element. We've then kind of taken a bite out of the parapet in the center section and replaced it with a wrought iron railing giving a little more transparency and lightness to that railing. Kept a portion of it still solid as it was original, and then we brought down a tile roof and wrapped it around the corner. This is the corner, it's probably the most prominent corner on the project, and wanted to get a little more tile in that area and also bring it down, which was another request in the minutes on adding a little bit more slope roofs to the area. Another major element that we worked on was the tower. We had previously had a much more narrow tower. We expanded that out and added a bit of a shed roof to try to balance that element. Gives us a bit more mass to the tower. We felt as though it removed kind of that spindly effect that the stair tower previously had. And then in the center of the facade, we had previously had a single brace along the bridgeway between the two building masses. We've since kind of elaborated that a little bit and also paired it with a symmetrical post. While not purely structurally necessary, I feel like it gives a much more balanced look to the bridge. So I think that was a great comment from the board. Then, zooming in a little bit, we also took a look at the central mass. Previously it was a bit more geometric and plain. We've kind of added a little more nuance and decoration to it. Chamfered the corners, added a stone base, added the tile caps, the stucco caps to the top. Try to give it a little more, I believe the word was finesse we were looking for. So I feel like that's only strengthened the entry. Okay. Then just some subtle things. So it was asked that we look at varying the detailing in the plaster work. We'd previously done some work on the lights in the windows, but then kind of pushed that forward a little more. So we've got recessed windows here with a sloped sill. We doing a solid sill here, surrounds, and then over on this side, pulled out the sill again. So taking kind of the path that we had started down when we revised the window lights, now trying to accentuate that just a little bit more. Still fairly subtle, but definitely gives a little bit of a different sense of detailing in the different building masses. All right. The couple other items I want to hit on. One is the tile entry, or the tile it's beneath the windows and in the surround. It's asked that we restudy that, try to find something a little less modern. Let me pull up page 15 for us. So we still want something fairly bold that's going to be able to, be appreciated at a distance, but definitely backed off of, I'll say, was a bit more blocky and contemporary styling. But it gives us some hierarchy with the design. So we've got a base, kind of the main field tile, and an edge tile. There we go. So you can kind of see it in the view underneath the windows. So we've got a nice recessed window, edge tile, and then the field tile. All right. The concrete area. This is a little one. We had actually a little area for bike parking. We probably had a little too much concrete there. So we've reduced it down, and so we still do have the bike parking, but this whole region used to be paved, and we've replanted that with landscaping. All right. The other item was in the rear of the building. We're looking at the planting sizes. So let me pull this up. It's along here. So We did take a look at this. We've got a couple things going on here. One is an existing fence that is currently planted with vines that is to remain. It's on the junior high property. The other thing we did want to note is that we have solar panels here. And so we've chosen species that we can keep trimmed and maintained at a reasonable height. So we'd like to keep this kind of strategy here, something that breaks it up as, you know, adds a softness to the parking lot, but doesn't kind of negate our ability to use these solar carports along the backside. So let me pull back up.
Before you leave that, can you just tell us what the size is of those?
Yes, let me grab that.
Twenty.
24-inch boxes. Okay. So let's jump back to the main facade. I think this is really where the vast majority of the refinement's gone. I'm trying to break this up a little more. We also did some subtle shifts in color that you can see, not only the base, but actually between the two stucco colors. A little hard to read on the screen. I think you can get a sense of it. There's a kind of a brighter white and then a more subdued white. Let me jump to the color material board. I think it's a little easier to see there. Yeah. Yeah. So you have the standard white, which was very similar to what you had previously seen. You have the kind of bold accent color, but then the sand dune, just kind of a subtle shift that we use at some of the recessed masses. All right. So that, in a nutshell, is what we've been up to since last time we met. I look forward to any questions.
Okay. Well, with that, we can go to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment regarding this project?
Thank you, Chair Moore. I currently do not have any speaker slips, but if there is anyone attending via Zoom who would like to speak on this item, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing any raised hands, and then we did not receive any written correspondence. So back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, we'll close public comment and go to questions.
Ways.
So these covered walkways, right now we have planted for recessed downlights.
Okay.
Or actually flush mounted downlights. They're
Okay.
LEDs.
Okay. And then while we're on this elevation, at the balconies that, like the covered balconies, most of them, some of them have railing, and then some have a cap. It looks like a parapet kind of cap. Is that a stone cap like the windowsills? Is that the similar detail?
Right now this detail is a stucco detail, but a stucco cap.
Stucco cap. And it's continuous across, or just at the
It continues
at the
across
opening?
and actually around, and it dies into this mass, but basically it's a trim piece that runs around that mass.
Okay. And then is that also occurring on the other side of your tower, below those windows? Is that continuous across, or is that just a color change? Like, is the
this-
windowsill continuous? Is it, or is it, I can't tell if it's like a shadow or if I'm just seeing a
Yeah.
color change.
So Yes, this is a trim piece, so very
Okay.
similar. Yes.
Okay.
yep.
Okay, those are my questions for now.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Six?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I assume that the tile below the windows will be recessed from the walls each side of it.
I think we have it detailed right now, in essence, flush. It's set into the stucco, but it's not.
Can you find a way to recess it and have a little return there, more convincing?
These guys, right?
Yeah.
here? Yes, absolutely.
Okay, can you, and I think it's A11 where you see this tile choice. No, right here, yeah. Yeah, right there, that first one. Can you explain to me why the different bands of color and so forth? Is it just to reflect the shadow of a sill on the upper windows, or what?
The design intent was to give it a little hierarchy. Originally, it had been one continuous, more kind of contemporary tile, and so we were attempting to back off that a bit and have basically a sill, a body, and a base.
So
go
the
for a
base
little
is the
more-
real dark one down below?
Correct.
Okay. And then the question is strange, but it will lead me to a comment on the fourth floor, A4. Yes, right in the upper right-hand deck there, in the mid-deck, there's that finger that looks like an exhaust in the plan, yes. Is that I don't see any shaft below on the third and fourth. Why is that extending out so?
It actually is a planned exhaust, so we.
It is an exhaust.
Yeah, so it's a shaft that could allow for exhaust for the commercial space on the ground floor.
Oh,
So we're working out the engineering now, but
Didn't
the
see it.
basic plan is to bring it up and then pull it back away from the parapet. Those exhaust actual fans can be quite large,
Yes.
so we don't want it anywhere near the edge. That being said, I would say keep that on your list for final and make sure you did it right,
Yeah,
because
it
we
was-
don't have it engineered yet.
It was bugging me,
yeah.
so, all right. And then if we go to that same plan, and please indulge me here. On the lower right-hand unit 414, can, we, over and over, in fact, on our comments, we said try to take some of the masses off the very corners. Can these, do the bedroom portion of this be flipped and get the balcony out to the corner to help reduce the corner mass? It seems like, there's some subtle plan difficulties like closets and so forth, but
Would you allow me to look at the facade with you real
Yes.
quick? Let's take a peek.
that's the next sheet, yeah.
Yep.
I realize you have a gable there, but
So I would say, is it possible? Of course. Does it affect a lot of the existing design that has been looked at several times together? Yes, too.
all right. And then my last question is on the parking structures. I think it's A10. So are you using the, well, first of all, let's go. Your section there, 3, yes, it looks like the column is in the middle, but your plan and your photo image shows it in the planting area at the head of the parking spaces. What will it be?
That's correct. We've been working with the Baja manufacturer to take a look at it. We actually are planning at it being fully cantilevered, so it would be
Fully
in the-
cantilevered, okay. And I've used that product before. Well, my question simply is, are you planning to use the Baja product,
That is our basis of design.
your basis of design? Okay,
So-
very good. That's my questions.
Okay. Mr. Black, any questions?
Yeah. Some of it had to do with those carports. So, let's go back to that elevation. There he goes. So, is that essentially what it looks like?
That's correct.
Okay. Was there any thought about, I don't know if it was just like if you clad the columns or just something that would just relate to the building architecture a little bit? This seems a little industrial, and the contrast is sort of significant to me. And I'm just wondering whether there was something you could do to, you know where I'm going with it. So rather than just taking a off-the-shelf product and plopping it down here,
Right.
it just seems like there should be some relationship design-wise to
Okay.
the building. So that would be that. And then could you go to the I guess that's the west-facing elevation. Yeah. This is the one with the carports fronting there.
It's no, this one would have the carports on it. This.
I'm
the
sorry, which
south.
one is, oh, that's, let's see, south.
That's facing
Yeah.
the school.
Oh, facing the school, that's
Yeah.
what I'm interested in, okay. Okay, so then when I look at that and I try to imagine the carports there, and so those dash lines, do they represent the top of the,
Sorry.
or no?
No, different levels.
Just trying to get an idea of, in elevation, how high up the carport structures are, actually.
So they'd be similar heights to the top of that opening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you spoke briefly about the trees that were selected, I guess they're cercis, in the little planter fingers in between the carport structures themselves. I'm a little bit, yeah. How much room is there from between the edge of the roof and then the property line? I'm just trying to, are there any opportunities to have any other trees in that strip out to the property line? Yeah, there.
Right here?
In that planter, and you've got like, I don't know, hedge material, what have you, but you're also looking at a 4-story building, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to get a little bit more verticality with the landscape to sort of soften the visual impact of the building.
So
That elevation. I don't think the cercis is going to do it. You may want to rethink that one, because it's not an upright plant per se.
Agreed. I would say there.
Maybe something more upright would help, but I'm just wondering, are there any other opportunities in that planting area out to the property line where you could maybe get some more verticality as well?
We're in a little bit of a tension here in that you can see where true south is. So
Yeah.
this is our best solar exposure.
I understand.
And so while we're kind of screening the car level, that kind of walk level, we shied away from going vertical.
Yeah.
That it's one thing to screen kind of the carports and the tuck
Right.
under, but we were not looking for massive screening to kind of hide the building. It's kind of the worst place to add tall trees in
No, I
terms of
get it.
shading.
I understand why. I'm also thinking about the visual impact that it's going to have on that elevation. It's going to be significant. Do you not agree? And what about on the north side? This is west, so it would be north. What do we have there verticality-wise?
Along
One
this
tree
zone.
there,
Yeah.
and I'm just looking to
Is that Drake
get
Elm?
some vertical massing around the building because it's significant. Biggest building on Milpas, yes? And it just seems like it could be brought down with some greenery. If I guess well, it's a comment, but just if you look for opportunities to do that, and granted, I understand the need to protect your solar exposure, but, and maybe all you can do is just change the tree in those finger planters, but that's the thing that sort of jumped out at me from that elevation. But.
Okay.
And then I asked this question before, but I just don't remember. The stone planters out front on Milpas on the sidewalk, how tall are those?
You did, I believe they're, let me hold up. I believe it's 36. Yeah, those 36 inches.
36?
Yep.
So is there a reason for that particular dimension? You're not wanting to encourage people to sit on those walls, I assume, correct?
Correct.
So you made them
So-
tall enough so that people can't do that, right?
Correct.
So that's not the idea.
We're kind of one of the driving factors. No, we don't want to make it a bench.
I get it.
We also don't want to necessarily go so high as to create a strange condition with the edge of the balcony.
No, that I
because
get
we have
too.
enough room to flash up and flash down. So we
Yeah.
gave ourselves about a foot here.
Maybe there might be an opportunity to have some plant material that would cascade over a little bit. Just,
Okay.
I mean, not significantly, in a significant way, but just to sort of soften it. 'Cause just
Yeah.
the dimension just would, from a pedestrian perspective, seems a little high to me, but, but those are my only questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Noonan?
Thank you. I don't have any additional questions.
Okay, Mr. Whalen?
No questions.
Okay, I think I just have one question. On that landscape plan, go back to that. Along the south property line, so there's kind of like a poche of the carport overhead. Is there one over there on the right as well, right-hand side?
Right here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and is that the same dimension as the others?
I believe it's slightly longer. We have an ADA stall there that we have to stretch over, but it's covering a similar number of stalls. Just with the access aisle, it ends up being a little longer.
Got it. Okay. And then, and then the trash enclosure, so is it looks like is it accessed from behind? So you come across the
Yes.
drive aisle?
So we
and
have
then, okay.
accessible path of travel across the drive aisle. We're going to double dip using the ADA aisle and then wrap around.
Got it. Okay.
There's a pedestrian door here and here.
Okay. Any follow-up questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's probably to David. When I say eucalyptus, brings to mind fragile falling branches and failure, but there is a type of eucalyptus that is extremely high and very elegant and hardly any foliage until it gets 30 feet up in the air. I don't know whether those particular species is character to the troublesome, dirty and falling branches and so forth, but could you get a mature species of that, the kind I'm referring to, the very elegant, high.
The Citriodora with sort of the white trunks.
Yeah.
kind of, that
Can
comes to
can
mind.
you get mature enough trees that they would take that mature, begin to take that mature form enough to get the canopy above the solar access and be beautiful high accent to do exactly what we're concerned about from that back elevation?
I would say offhand that that's a possibility, sure, assuming that you have enough physical space to plant, because those trees do get, they'll get a caliper on them like this big. So if you have the space to do that, I understand if you get the canopy. I couldn't guarantee that with the canopy up 30, 40 feet that you're going to get the kind of solar exposure you require for your panels, but it would be handsome, for sure.
Because there's a lot more sculpture to the branches than there are canopies to those
I would agree.
trees.
I would agree.
Would that be something that we could seriously suggest, or should we put a bahash on it right now?
Well, I think your landscape architects should at least study it, see what the opportunities are.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's all the questions. Let's move to comments. Who would like to start? Anybody? Mr. Whalen?
I'll start with no comments, Chair Moore.
Okay. Mr. Noon?
My only comment was Vice Chair Six brought it up about recessing the tile under those windows. You know, I guess the color is up to color variation. I think I would personally not do the accents, the change in color, but the recess was the most important.
Okay. Mr. Black?
I get it in my questions, just in terms of the carports and whether or not, it just seems that you could at least look at trying to make those a little bit more, I'll say, compatible with the building architecture. If there's some fashion that you could do that, whether it's somehow cladding the posts, or, I don't know, but just something that would relate the two. I think that would add to the project. That's all, thanks.
Vice Chair Six?
Thank you. First of all, I think that as you have on throughout the project, your corbels, there's most of the minor corbels are simply quarter rounds. And like your bigger corbels on some of your bigger openings, there's a little bit more finesse to them. I would suggest that just, see how, if you had just a simple one more finesse to your quarter rounds corbels, they would be much more successful, like a little rectangle above before on the top portion or something like that. It just would really make a whale of a difference. And then if we get to the commercial portion of the Milpas elevation, yes, there are several, and I don't know whether it's a remnant of the old modern or whatever, but like for in the leasing opening to the leasing office, the band of windows between the two colored, and then around the corner, the windows go right up to the return of the wall that's proud of the colored area. It would be so much more successful to have just a minor section return before you bang into it. I think if you look on your 3D models of that corner, you'll see it really makes a very contemporary look to otherwise see how your lintels just bang into that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be much more successful that. And then back to that banded window, I think it'd be much more successful if you chose one of your either 2-bay or 1-bay, one of the 2-bay, or that band of windows, I think, is a remnants of the old modern, and I think it would be much more successful to use window, one of the windows around the corner type, either 1 or 2 or whatever.
Can I ask for a clarification? Do you imagine these type of windows, or are you looking for more of the residential?
No. I think that's a good relief. See the window to the left of the colored. Yeah. No. The next one over to the other way, right there. Yeah. If that one was 2 in a row or something like that, I think it'd be much more in keeping. I don't, just personal, I'll let that go. I resonate with Mr. Noon's comment on the tile. I think it would be much more dramatic and successful to have an all dark, a very dark color that would relate with the dark of the window and so forth, rather than the light color. It looks like, it gets back to the tile look. So, so we already went through the fourth floor shaft on the upper. If it's an exhaust, maybe it's expressed as an exhaust with some chimney, some refinements to it, rather than just a level parapet going around on that. And I probably won't get support of the rest of the board, but I still think studying that, what is it, the lower, let's see, it would be the unit 414, and getting the balcony out to the corner instead of inside, so that over, and maybe that gable becomes like the shed over on the two sheds way over there, and maybe 3 sheds and 1 gable is better than 2 sheds and 2 gables. Anyway, I would do that. And I was wondering if on the south and west elevations, this is a good place. If I like your color introduction, could the center 4 garage openings be surrounded in that orange color, as they are proud of and have returns? That's a suggestion. And then on the west elevation, there is you could introduce a little fun color to the little entry, the arched opening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be fun. Give it a little variety. And then in regards to the parking structures, I think that I've used the Baja project, and it's extremely boxy and funky and clunky. And I would suggest that you really look at that product. I would suggest, their fascia is flat and very high. If at least putting an additional OG or a false gutter type of thing to provide some shadow lines, perhaps, and their beam ends and right at the fascia, maybe the beam ends can come out and have some kind of brings into a sense of compatibility with the building. I'm sure you're not going to be able to finesse that full Spanish, but I really think you should look at that product, because it needs some finesse, and I'm sure that the image that you have has a lot more spaghetti. There's dangling wires for the lighting and so forth. I think the lighting should be upgraded, something other than utilitarian. So those are my comments.
Okay. Ms. Anderson, any comments?
I mean, just to add to what has been said, I think for 414, if it doesn't work to flip the floor plan, I'd just study the parapet definition at that corner to help reduce the mass. And then also introduce the corbel definition at the garage openings, as well as the other quarter round locations.
That's it? Okay. Well, my own comments are, I guess, taking a step back, I think in general, this is a good step forward with the design updates. I think, hopefully, I think that's, everybody agrees. I think
We forget the positive when we start.
let's start with the positive. And I particularly on the Milpa Street elevation, I think what you've done is successful in modulating the parapet heights and adding some additional tile roof sections. I think all of that is really successful, and I think the variety of the window detailing has been that's been added is really successful. I think you've come a long way. So thank you for listening and integrating those comments into the design. My only comments have to do with the landscape and the which Mr. Black has expressed, and then the solar carport design, I think, needs some additional study, which Vice Chair Six enumerated. So it's my personal feeling is that the project's ready for PDA, which is project design approval today. So I don't know, what is the board's feeling on that? Can we take a straw vote on how many board members feel the project is ready for project design approval today? We can do a vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the straw vote. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member New?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Great. So I would make a motion for project design approval with the following comments. That the board appreciates the changes and updates to the design and feels that the project is in a much better place than when it started. And then let's add under the comments, comment number 1, that the applicant shall provide, I'm going to talk about the landscaping, so enhanced, how would you say it, Mr. Black? Enhanced vertical planting along
Yeah.
the south property line?
Exactly. Look for more opportunities for vertical planting to sort of soften the visual impact of that elevation as best we can with, understanding that there's issues around solar exposure, but something to study.
Okay. And let's read that comment back so we can be,
Sorry, I kind of
Craft it.
morphed both of those. The applicant shall provide enhanced vertical planting along the south property line to soften the visual impact.
Mhm.
Would you like me to expand on that?
anything
Of the building. Of the height of the building.
of the height of the building.
Eh.
And do we want to add anything to that to be?
Are you sure you want to say shall? That's pretty, we have to, we're studying it, but we have to reconcile these issues, so.
Well, we need to be clear at this point. We're giving you PDA, so we can't say study anymore at this
Gotcha.
point.
Okay, we'll take shall.
Staff also has one,
Yeah.
in that motion, we read it as south. Was it intended to be north? Or south?
South
Okay.
is correct.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, and then comment number 2, the applicant shall continue to design the solar array carports and add additional detailing to integrate that design more closely with the building design. Would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I think we had concurrence on choosing a darker color and recess the tile below the windowsills.
Okay, well, I was talking about the carport.
Oh, excuse me.
Design.
No, I think
Is
that's,
that acceptable?
read it back again.
Can we read that number 2 back?
Just-
The applicant shall continue to design the solar array carports and additional detailing to integrate the design more closely with the building design.
Yeah, that's fine.
Add addition, or,
And add addition
Add
detailing, yes.
okay. And then comment 3 would be to, this has to do with the tile, decorative tile under the windows. How do you want to say that? Mr. Six?
To recess the tile from the main window wall and to provide darker colored design to be more a part of the window shape.
Okay. Can we read that back?
to recess the tiles from the main window wall and provide character and color design to be more a part of the window.
You say the tile below the windows. Did you,
The tiles below the main window wall?
I'd say at
She
the,
just-
at the ground level, below the windows, recess the tile,
yes, there you go, that's it.
Perfect.
and provide a darker color. Okay. So those are my three main comments. Is there anything additional that we want to add?
Chair Moore, I don't want to add anything. Just a clarification on the solar arrays. It sounded like there was maybe a comment that we were maybe giving them direction to hide the posts, the structure. Does that mean maybe building framing around it and plaster? And the question is, do we want to, that then is less landscaping, potentially? I understand the detailing,
Yeah.
you know,
I personally, I don't feel they need to clad the columns
Okay.
that support this.
Okay.
Those things. I
Yeah.
think maybe they could plant some vines that grow up it
Okay.
or something to help soften that or screen it somehow.
Okay.
But I think the additional detailing had to do with more of the canopy of the
Got it.
thing, and
Got it.
as Vice Chair Six described. Okay.
very good, thank you for
Okay.
clarifying.
Anything else? Do we have a s-
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I think two items that I feel important about is the returns at the or the providing returns at the openings that abut a proud wall.
Okay, so that would be, I guess, point number 4, be provide a stucco jamb,
Yes,
essentially, at all window openings.
good. And I feel it important to provide a little finesse to all the quarter round corbels.
Okay, so is that a additional step on both the
Yes,
vertical and
let's
horizontal?
just say provide more finesse to the quarter round corbels.
Okay, that's point number 5 then, okay. Okay. Do I have a second?
And the project compatibility findings
Let's
as
see if
well.
we get a second, too.
Okay.
So I'll second that. Under further discussion,
Yeah.
do we want to give up the opportunity to provide a dent in the corner of that southeast corner?
It would be nice, but I think based on its location, I think it's, debatable whether it would have much visual impact.
You want to get the rest of the board on that? I would want to see a straw vote on that.
Okay, well, let's take a straw vote. Can we go to that elevation?
Yeah.
South elevation.
It's the Ortega as well as the south. Yeah, and the Ortega.
What's being proposed?
Could they flip this arrangement to put the balconies at the corner and remove some of that mass?
See, we're talking, Mr. Black, are talking flipping that unit because it's not stacked with any of the units below. So that an element in the corner, so it's taking a notch out of the mass, both on this elevation and on the east elevation.
Is that doable from an architectural perspective? From a structural perspective, you can do that?
Yeah, the units aren't stacked, so,
Oh.
yeah, I mean, it's an effort.
And would that carry through the lower units?
No,
Just there.
So
Just
just the fourth
there.
one.
and I'm sure they can arrange the openings and so forth to make sense with the openings below.
Okay, well, let's take our straw vote. How many board members would like the fourth, was that unit 4 414. How many board members feel the applicant should flip the arrangement of massing to put the balcony on the corner of unit 414?
I'll go ahead and take a roll call for the straw vote. Chair Moore,
No.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
No.
Board Member Black,
I'll say no.
Board Member Noon,
No.
Board Member Whalen.
No.
Motion fails. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so we won't have that as a part of the motion, but, sorry. Anything else? We have to make our compatibility findings, but let's read it all back first to make sure we're good.
Thank you, Chair Moore. As of right now, the motion stands that the board appreciates the changes and updates to the design and feel the project is in a much better place than when it started. The applicant shall provide enhanced vertical planting along the south property line to soften the visual impact of the height of the building. The applicant shall continue to design the solar array carports and add additional detailing to integrate the design more closely with the building design. At the ground level below the windows, to recess the tiles from the main window wall and provide a darker color, providing a stucco jamb at all window openings, and provide finesse to the quarter-round corbels.
Okay, did we get everything? I think so. Okay. And now the compatibility findings. Good. Okay. Number one, consistency with design guidelines. This project is consistent with the design guidelines based on the location and the desires of City Council to allow for larger development in this location.
And present zoning.
And number two, the project is compatible with the architectural character of the city and neighborhood, as it is utilizing architectural detailing and styles found throughout the downtown area. Number three, it does have appropriate size, mass, bulk, height, and scale, as it was deemed appropriate by the City Council. Number four, it is sensitive to adjacent landmarks due to the junior high is the closest landmark, so it is sensitive to that landmark, as the design is integrating features found in historical styles throughout the downtown area. Number five, public views of the oceans and mountains have not been impacted. Number six, there is appropriate open space and landscaping within this project. Okay. Any additional discussion before we vote? No? Okay, let's vote.
I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
No.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to say your
Well,
no vote?
we commented that in previous meetings to make every effort to reduce the corners of the building. And here we have an opportunity and we didn't take it.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item number 2.
Yeah, we gotta get that.
Rob? Good.
What's that?
It's appealable?
Oh, sorry. And we do need to mention the 10-day appeal period for that last project. If we can put that on, yeah, before we jump in. There we go. And for that last project, the appeal process is here on screen, and you can follow that if you wish.
tail relative. Shirt tail relative.
Okay. While you're getting set up here, I'll read the description. So this is project number 2. It's a new item for concept review. It's 110 through 150 South Lacumba Road. And the project consists of a proposal to merge the lots, demolish the existing 2,194 square foot non-residential building, and construct a 922 square foot automatic self-serve drive-through car wash with 116 linear foot dedicated approach lane for queuing of cars. 2 vacuum spaces will be provided adjacent to the existing mini mart located at 150 South Lacumba Road. 7 parking spaces for the fueling station are proposed. A performance standard permit is required to allow for the self-serve automated car wash use in the CG zone. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings and the urban design guidelines. Okay. Is there anything from staff before we jump in? No?
I can't speak on behalf of the case planner, but this is the first time it's being reviewed, so, no.
Okay. Okay. If you could introduce yourselves.
I'm Kent Mixon, architect, Androlitis Mixon Architects.
I'm Robert Andrew Fowler, landscape architect.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and committee members. I think we're all probably familiar with this site. We've all probably driven by it a million times. It's the old Lacumba Pat Hospital at the intersection that goes into 5 Points and going the opposite direction into Lacumba Plaza. There's, you can see here some existing site photos. This is from Lacumba Lane, which is the dead-end cul-de-sac lane on the backside of the existing Pat Hospital and fuel station. This is kind of from coming from 5 Points, looking at the existing Pat Hospital area. And this is kind of coming from State Street towards the freeway and our project being here. I don't know if I need to really show you the rest of these photos. We're bordered by a commercial building on the left, or behind us, 5 Points, side of 5 Points there. And then there's a gas station opposite us, as well as the AT&T store, which is catty-corner to our development. I'll scan to the site plan. This is the existing site plan. You can see the existing pet hospital here, and that box is kind of an overlay of where the proposed car wash bay sits in relationship to that. It straddles essentially the existing property line that runs through here right now, which as a part of this project will be merging those parcels into one parcel. The existing mini mart store with island fuel islands are here, and there's some parking spaces and a hydrogen cell fuel station on this side that we're not touching any of that. I'll zoom in here to our. So the majority of our development is really kind of down at this north end of the site. Currently now, it's essentially almost all paved, aside from some small planters that surround the building. The building and the parking lot are essentially 100% paving. We are proposing to revise this driveway break on this side. It's the only of the 4 driveway breaks that doesn't have an ADA compliant access across it right now. We'll be extending the basically from this corner of the intersection, we'll be extending the sidewalk, which currently doesn't exist. There's just asphalt parking all the way up to kind of the edge of the curb right now. We'll also, aside from the building and the queuing lane, that's essentially the only solid structure that we have. The queuing lane will actually be a permeable paving as part of that project. We have some retaining walls here that I'll let Robert kind of speak to and how that relates to the landscaping and what we're proposing. And in addition to that landscaping around the building, we're also proposing another street tree in that sidewalk portion. The area where the vacuum spaces are over here. There's currently four parking spaces there that will be taking up, and that will be bordered by the existing landscaping on the street side and planting finger towards the fuel pump side. It's a pretty simple structure. It's literally a drive-through automatic wash bay and then a supporting equipment room on the west side of the building that contains all the equipment basically that supports the wash bay. It is just a simple rectangular with a shed roof on one side where the equipment room is. We have a simple wood trellis here. It's tile roof, plaster. And then we also have some simulations here. These green triangles are the viewpoints from which these pictures that follow were taken from. And this shows the existing pet hospital and then how it would look being as it's proposed right now. And then likewise, kind of from this is across from Lacumba Road where the Chevron station is now, looking at the pet hospital. And then the proposal as we have it. And this is kind of from the cat corner from the AT&T store looking towards our project in 5 Points. You can see in the background there. And the materials, again, simple roof tile, Spanish tile roof, copper gutters, some wood trellis, exterior plaster, some really simple light fixtures, and the windows that we have are just kind of a clad bronze color. And then Robert, I'm going to let you kind of take over here. Do you want to drive?
I don't do very well, if you know me. I don't do well. So as far as the site goes, I don't know if you're familiar with this site, but it tends to flood. And so part of the design solutions was trying to manipulate the grades to try to mitigate that situation. So, and we know this is kind of a gateway, kind of project to the city coming off the freeway. But the idea was to kind of build up the landscaping. That's why that wall, the little low wall on the right-hand side, way over even further at the intersection, kind of built up the earth right there, and we're sloping back towards the middle. And then if you look at kind of on the lower left part of the car wash building where I have the blue arrows, again, I've worked on several iterations of this project as they kind of remodeled the market, and then they did the hydrogen fuel cell system, and where we have filters and so forth going on there. So the landscaping, the intent of the landscaping was to kind of blend with what's been done before with the there's a bunch of queen palms there that you see. So in fact, we're going to reuse those three queen palms that are there. Tried to, as far as some of the understory, I did have iceberg roses was the white and purple, but the city preferred that I use something more lower water use, and the intent of that, again, was to match what was done before. And then some of the other landscaping is more if you look at the AT&T across the way, it's a little bit more, Scottsdale kind of southwest, and so I tried to pick up on some of the plant material there and kind of play off of that. So I think that's, And as far as the landscaping, I think that the 3Ds that we have kind of, I worked with the renderer on that and tried to, as much as possible, make sure the 3Ds kind of match where I was going with the landscaping. We did try to preserve, as you come up along Lacoomer towards the freeway, trying to kind of maintain and frame the building with the landscaping, but still allow some of the views of the ingress and egress out of that facility to be maintained.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. If we could open public comment for this item?
Thank you, Chair Moore. If anyone participating via Zoom would like to speak on this item, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing any raised hands. I also do not have any speaker slips, and we did not receive any written correspondence for item 2. Back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, we'll close public comment and go to questions. We start with Mr. Whalen.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Moore. To begin with, in a general way, could you talk about your decision to align the car wash building with the rest of the buildings rather than La Cumbre? I could form that in a question if you need.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying. Are you're saying rather than aligning the building this way, why didn't we align it at kind of a diagonal to the street?
Parallel to the street,
Yeah,
yes.
parallel to the street,
Yes,
I
what
mean,
was
yeah.
behind that decision?
Well, part of it was the existing monument sign here that's existing there. That's basically the fuel prices in that location. And I mean, I think that's really mainly it, because it was hard to really get the queuing and so forth to work and to get exit out of that building. The important thing was for us to, essentially as it is now, you're exiting out of this in the center of the lot, and then providing exit and egress into this space from these existing drive cuts, so that are also being used by the fuel station as well. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't competing too closely to these existing ingress and egress points as well.
Very good answer. And then to the building architecture on that east elevation, are they really windows? Could you talk about those and what's going on?
Those are, I wish they were. I wanted them to be real windows. In talking with the client, though, just because of the amount of water on the inside, it's a huge maintenance issue of trying to keep those clean and looking well. But we felt like we needed something on that facade to kind of break that up. So those are actually, they're real windows, but there's a false back behind those.
Do they have any translucency?
They do not.
All right, that answers that question. The other few questions I have are for landscape. It looks like there are some agaves indicated in the landscape strip. If you could go to that, sorry. Yes, between the curb and the new walkway, sometimes called the hell strip, I've just discovered, but are those agaves? I couldn't quite find them on your legend.
That is, that's a symbol I use for agaves. That was my intent. There is some restrictions on the height, but the idea was to get a little accent planting kind of along there in a few key spots, and then mostly it would be either ground cover or I haven't really decided what the ground plane would be at this point, but it's kind of a weird little stretch of a pedestrian walk because it's really...
I got a little lost on your sheet. Could you show where they are indicated on your legend? I couldn't quite find them, if that's terribly
They would,
important.
well, it's very possible that that's a mistake, but
Okay.
that I think, but that's a symbol I use for agave, so I think they're missing on the legend. That hasn't been all flushed out, so.
That's them right
Are they there?
There
Oh, there
they
they are.
are.
They're high. I can't, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, appreciate
And then another, which could be a possible mistake, I'll defer to Mr. Black, on the Euphorbia lambii, which
Lambii.
is It's on the right-hand side of the legend. No, over at the legend, please, on the right-hand side of the page.
Oh, on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
Right-hand
it-
side. You call it a tree aloe? I think those are two different things, are they not?
So that is a mistake, but it's
Okay.
it's a tree euphorbia. It's, and that does show up at the, right at the entrance on the right, right there, yes, thank you.
So it is not the
it's real
euphorbia,
sculptural.
it's an aloe.
No, it's a tree, it's a euphorbia. It's a real sculptural,
But it's not a tree
no,
aloe.
not a tree owl. It's more a
Okay.
tree
Thank you.
euphorbia, I guess, is a, so.
Let's see. And then I couldn't quite find out if there was a vine on the trellis. If so, what's the vine?
That, well, that detail, I mean, there is some vine shown. We're trying to get some vines around the entry. I think if you look at the elevations, the intent is to have some vines. I don't know, I might have called some out, but those were typically details that you see in the 3Ds. So the intent is, I mean, when I get into CDs, those
Okay.
kinds of details will be flushed out. So,
Certainly.
Yeah.
Those are all my questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Noon?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Mr. Black?
Only because you brought it up, Rob. So you're not going to use iceberg, something else? City
Well,
said
if you could, the committee could support it, and I'd be happy to use them, so. I thought it would kind of tie into the rest of the project, where they are used. But they don't have the low in the terms of the wheel-low. They're reasonably drought tolerant. They're used all over the city, but they don't end up on the list, so.
Okay. It was just a question, so
So-
no others.
Okay, Vice Chair Six?
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore. Can we go to the elevation? Your notes for the heights say that, what is it, 2 feet difference between the bottom of the structure to the top of the parapet, and you're going to have solar on the top of that. I could see this being higher I know that we're not required to completely screen solar, but it certainly be better to have a higher parapet to lessen the impact of when that wild card height, the wild card being the height of the installed solar comes along.
Yeah, in my looking into that initially, I believe this building does not require, this use does not require to have solar installation on it.
So you're not intending to do solar? Okay, your plans show a solar.
You know what, that might be, there might have been some crossover from when it was initially, was that on this roof plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I'm pretty sure that
Okay.
we investigated that further and we're not required for this type
Okay,
of
so no
use.
intention, okay. And then, I guess it's to the landscape plan. And I don't know about plants or anything, but the graphics don't seem to, my question is, I think it's a beautiful project. The concern would be the view of the innards of the car wash from going up and down La Cumbre. Is there a way to, or do the plant materials reflect the idea of high and more denser planting on both the innie and outie of the car wash to help block the views of the insides of the beast from La Cumbre?
Yes, actually, could you go to the 3D? We specifically worked on the plant materials so that you don't see cars in the queuing lane, and we actually adjusted the wall. See what I'm showing, which would be where
Right
the...
where his hand is. It was-
Yeah, right, so those were, they were going to be iceberg roses, but I don't even remember what I picked as an alternate during the process of getting a complete submittal. But the intent there is to have a screen shrub for the whole purpose of hiding those cars in the queue. And so we tried to
Well,
work
Yeah,
with...
the car's in the queue, but I'm more
You're talking about the interior.
interior of
Of the
the,
bay,
of the
yeah.
opening. So that would be, instead of car height material, it would be the car wash opening height and an appropriate density.
So there is some planting there that frames the entry. The intent of the vine was all kind of moving to kind of do some of that.
Yeah,
Again, there was a little bit tricky on that left-hand side of the building as you come up La Cumbre, and that we were trying to maintain some, a visual lane to the entrance, ingress, egress of the gas station behind it, and of course the pricing and so forth.
well, let me phrase, okay, very good. I just, on the images, and I don't know with the plant material, it doesn't seem, it seems like there's an opportunity there.
Maybe we can, yeah, we have a tree here, which is
Add another
shown.
tree to the
It seems like that we
Yeah.
might be able to have something in this area, because this is,
Oh, yeah.
this is the area that I think you see it more straight on. When you're
Yeah.
coming from the freeway, there's a
Yeah.
pretty significant kind of bulge in that landscaping from
It seems that would be an
from
ideal
this side,
place to-
and this is
to-
kind of downhill also, so I don't think you see it so much from this way.
Okay.
And likewise, kind of from the back side as well. There's a wall and landscaping along here, so you don't really ever get quite a view into that building from that side, but I understand what you're saying.
I might have had a tree there on one of the iterations and pulled it up, but that's a perfect place for a tree and fine to add it, for sure.
Yeah, if there's no logistic limitations
No,
or
it's-
view or whatever, that would be ideal use of landscape to
Sure, absolutely.
to hide the innards.
Good. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Yes, what is the operational hours of this? And
It's like 8, it's on I don't have it with me. It was, our planning application has it in there,
Okay.
that they recommended, and we're following what they recommended.
Yeah, I guess leaning towards the question of like lighting on the inside of this, and if it's kind of a big lantern at night.
Yeah.
Or light
I don't
spill.
know. Do you have any access to the planning document? I almost brought that with me and I forgot to bring it, but it was like 8 to 8 or 10 to
Okay.
8 or
So
something
it will
like
be
that.
dark
Yeah, at certain times
Yeah.
it would be.
I mean,
Okay,
typically,
and,
typically car washes don't stay open past dark anyhow because
Right.
people want to dry their car and they want the sunlight and so forth,
Right.
so.
there's some that are open late, I was just curious. And then the other exterior lighting is just at the openings?
Yes.
Okay. And no landscape lighting, that, as of right now?
No.
Okay.
I can look up that response and let, yeah.
Just a couple of questions. I understand the configuration has to do with the circulation of the cars and all that. Did you study flipping the buildings so the tile roof portion was facing La Cumbre Road?
We did. We looked at several iterations of how to kind of structure this thing. The problem with that was that we would be in the setback. We have quite large setbacks in this performance standard permit area. We have like 10 feet there. You can see how it's already kind of partway into our drive queue.
And I'm just talking about flipping the building itself, not the whole configuration.
Well, then that equipment room would be in our setback if we just kept the drive at the exact and flipped the tile to face La Cumbre. Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. That's how we started out initially, and we couldn't get the radiuses and so forth to work.
All right, even with rotating the building
Yeah,
to be parallel with La Cumbre?
yeah.
'Cause it's kind of a shame because the most interesting part of the side of the building is facing away from the most heavily trafficked street. Okay. Okay, well, those are my comments. Any additional follow-up questions? Sorry. Nope. Okay, let's go to comments. So this is comment only. So let's not get too down in the weeds for details and things, so big picture. Okay.
Sure.
Mr.
I'd be
Whalen?
happy to start, Chair
Yeah.
Moore. It's a fine proposal. It seems like it is a landscape project and that happens to have a car wash in it, and I would encourage you to keep developing that. But in opposition to that, I do think the architecture is a little weak right now. You probably agree with me. It would, as Chair Moore just said, the more interesting side is not the public side. And what we do see tends to look a little vaguely Pueblo. So I think I would encourage you to push it more in a Santa Barbara style. Let's see. I don't think there's much of a view coming from the freeway. The really important view, as Member 6 pointed out, is the view south coming from La Cumbre. And in that regard, I do think that you are right to respond to the AT&T building that is catty corner. That one has rather a large trellis on top of the wall. You might consider developing the landscape element to include something that would continue to screen that most important view south. And then the plantings around the openings on the trellis, that is, yeah, it seems to me you're going to have trouble. If they were bougainvillea, as they were sort of inclined to, that's going to just be such a mess for a building of this type and operation to consider. So even if it didn't have planting on it, I think I could be happy on it with just the shadow play. Let's see. I think that's all I did, just to reinforce the idea that it is a landscape project that happens to have a car wash in it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Noon?
I don't think I'm going to have anything additional to say that hasn't already been said or will be said. I do find it interesting, the amount of attention and detail that's been put into the proposed use. So it's I would say it's on the right path and just look forward to further development.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, short of the comments that have been made, I think it's going to be a handsome addition to this location. We did talk about bringing some additional screening, Rob, down and around that curve to sort of block the view into the car wash bay. But maybe even, I see you've got arbutus in and around there. Maybe consider olives. Provide you with some screening that you can kind of wrap around.
Sure.
And as far as the iceberg is concerned, I don't have really strong feelings. Maybe that's just a little bit too much flowering going on there, whereas you can, yeah. And anyway.
There were some viable substitutes, I think.
Yes. Okay, you can study that. That's my only comments. Thanks.
Okay. Vice Chair 6?
Well, I think it's a very handsome project and very nice use for this corner. I didn't think I thought the architecture was good until I heard from the rest of the board. One of the things I forgot to ask then, was there exploration and due to budget or whatever to do a full mission tile both sides, ridge in the center?
Yeah, we did look at that at one point, but we felt like it was, for the size of the building and so forth, that it was getting too massive with the tile roof to match the slope of the mini mart. So that was kind of our response, just to try to minimize this. And like it's already been pointed out, it was more like a landscape project with this building kind of in it.
No, I think the architecture is appropriate. And You heard my comment about screening the innards of the machinery. And just a minor one, the example of the light fixture you provided is a glare. You know, when you see the direct filament of the bulb, it's irritating and should be lensed and downward facing.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, I think it's a nice project. I appreciate the permeable paving and the stormwater collection. I think that's a good use of the site as well. And I would also consider studying the light fixtures and light spill when it's dark out from inside. And those are my comments.
Okay. I don't really have anything to add to that other than it's, as Mr. Whalen pointed out, it's pretty much a landscape project. I agree, so.
I would like to add one last landscape comment. In that planting strip along the new sidewalk, I would carefully consider the use of spiky plants. So maybe agaves are better than aloes, or one or the other. Thank you.
Okay, so who would like to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion for indefinite continuation back to the full board with the following comments: that the board appreciates the design is presented, and appreciates the layouts, the layout of the site with the demands of queuing and radiuses and so forth, and look forward to a bit more Hispanic flavor to the parapeted building. Number 3 would be look forward to more planting, such as a tree or higher shrubs with density to screen the internal mechanisms of the car wash from the west going La Cumbre traffic. And look forward to the sensitive use of lighting and light fixtures. Is that it?
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Anderson. Any discussion?
I'm wondering if the board members would consider something specific along addressing the windows, whether they should really be windows or it should be something else or nothing at all. If there's some kind of straw vote on that.
Would the maker of the motion entertain any discussion about the windows?
Sure. I would feel that instead of trying to make them look fake, there should be some kind of decorative inset with tile or whatever to read more what they really is, a relief in the wall and not a faux window.
Yes, I would agree. It could even be no windows at all with a trellis with all the flowering materials, thus becoming more of a garden pergola.
I like the puncture of the plane of the box. So I would, let's see, the fifth and final comment would be to study a non-window solution to the cutouts in the south elevation of the structure.
How about articulating the south wall in lieu of windows or instead of windows?
I prefer that much.
Thank you.
Just so we're consistent, I think on my plans, I show that as east elevation, so I just
Oh,
want to
the
make sure.
east elevation.
Yeah, so just to probably make it clear.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? We can take our vote.
I approve.
Okay.
Can
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Not to continue, but, and it's more regarding because there's been several comments about the architecture, and now that this is kind of a part of this gas station, which is kind of nondescript gas station architecture, it's almost like this little mid-century thing that's been Hispanicated. That's been a struggle of trying to like not make this thing too one direction of like a hardcore Spanish building and still kind of respect the simplicity of these two things as they're flowing together. So I don't know if you guys have any comments, I'm open to hear that.
Well, you presented a building that is Hispanic and Santa Barbara style and nature, right?
Very simple box, that kind of lends itself more to this kind of more streamlined existing mini mart was kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I would add that the hydrogen fuel cell too was pretty simple box at the other end of the project too, so.
And that's actually kind of a modern.
I wouldn't be over concerned about trying to
Okay.
match the detailing of the faux Spanish gasoline station.
The original Adobe buildings are quite simple, and I think that's what you could bear in mind.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's take a 2-minute break, please. restart our meeting. We're on to item number 3, which is 515 West Olivos Street. This is a revised project. It's a proposal for 6 residential units comprising of a 2-story duplex and a 3-story fourplex using the AUD program. The unit mix includes 1 studio, 1 bedroom, 2 2-bedroom units, and 2 4-bedroom units. The units range in size from 295 square feet to 1,382 square feet, with an average size of 1,039 square feet. The proposed density is 17 units per acre and is located in a medium-high density, which allows 15 to 27 units per acre. The project proposes 20.77 dwelling units per acre. The proposal includes 8 vehicle parking spaces and 6 bike parking spaces, and the existing residence will be demolished. Project design approval is requested, and the project requires compliance with the project compatibility guidelines, and when we last saw this, May 17th of 2021. Welcome back. If we could have our previous motion up, that'd be helpful.
One moment.
Great. Okay, take a moment to read through these. Okay. All right. If you could introduce yourselves and talk us through your changes and then the response to the motion, please. Are we all turned on here? It's on.
Yes.
Great.
Steve Johnson, I'm the property owner, and my design team, let them introduce themselves.
I'm Howard Wittosh. I am the civil engineer on this project. I am not the architect, but the architect was not able to make it today. So I'm here to answer architectural questions. This is my first appearance here on this project.
And I'm Charles McClure, the landscape architect. Okay.
If you're ready for us to start?
I have a question. The owner provided me with these highlighted responses to the comments of last meeting. Have you received these?
No.
We saw a public comment that had them included.
My apologies.
Submit them as a public comment to make sure you have access to them.
Yes, but it'd be good for you to walk us through those.
Okay. Well, these are both architectural and landscape related, and so we might as well just start with the first one. This first item has to do with walls along the westerly property line have been thickened. That's the response. So there was a comment that the walls were a little skinny. And my understanding is that they have been thickened, and if somebody could point that out, where they have been thickened.
Is it up here? Are these
I
walls
think
or no?
it says along the westerly property
See,
line.
those are 12-inch walls now.
Okay.
Southwesterly, and the freeway side of the building was the concern. And so the trash cans have moved back more out of sight. And the wall originally was just a 1-foot thick wall at the front corner of the opening. It's now wider. It provides storage for either bicycles or surfboards and hides the trash cans somewhat more. There's midway through, there's another pair of storage units that's thicker, and farther at the back corner, there is another storage facility. I will note, we've done something else to deal with the floating or spindly quality that was concerned about. And the return at the...
Pardon me, Mr. Johnson, could you speak into the
Hello,
microphone? I'm having trouble following you.
The return, sorry, at the, I guess that's probably the southwest corner, the rear corner there where the hand is. So it's been thickened with a utility storage unit, but the return, we had an issue with the turning radius of the car backing out, and so it is not as deep as possible. But I think you'll see that the changes we've made at the front of the opening to the parking area mitigate that. That'll come up either 3D video or an elevation. I think
Okay.
that completes
Yeah.
the first comment.
So the next item had to do with a stucco plinth. Should continue the good craftsman-style detailing, accentuating the detailing found on the two-story unit with minor finessing of the corbels. Refinements of the trim. Consider providing changes in material and/or openings in portions of the railings and balconies, and perhaps provide additional trim around openings. The response is we need an elevation or a rendering. An eyebrow and pedestrian access arch have been added to the opening of the parking area. Balcony walls have remained solid for noise abatement and privacy. So I believe in the upper right-hand corner says front elevation. You see that if you can get a little closer to that there, the gable end,
Oops,
here we go.
doggone it. Yeah.
You have to drag it over.
That one, is that one you?
No.
The next page, that's of the duplex. We need, there we go, right
Okay.
there.
It's that one right there, front. And the blind white space that you see below the gable there is actually the airspace in the distance. See the brown fence in the background, so that is not something that is not a panel. It's air. So the gable is supported by corbel brackets, and that is the added, that was added to the entrance to the parking area.
If I could add, there's also a pedestrian access and like a 2-foot wide pillar at the end. I refer to that as an eyebrow, gable, whatever. But there, where the hand is, there's an additional structural element and a pedestrian access opening. The effect is to narrow the opening of the parking entrance.
So that's that item. Moving on to the third item, further study the open yard. So I'm going to, this is the front unit and the back unit to provide more open yard amenities and a more direct linkage between the parking under the back unit and the entry to the front unit. Maybe you want to talk about this.
Sure.
Charles.
Go ahead. So this car parking space here, that guy, when he backs out, he swings in and uses the patio a little bit to get out.
Tiny bit.
And so this is a flush joint across here, and that's a patio. And the reason it's angled like that is that creek setback. And then we have a bench, a paver patio. This great big oak is existing, and we just gravel around that. And then there's another paving piece here, and that's the barbecue. To another patio with a bench, and then this is a seat wall, masonry seat wall. And we have a similar kind of, place for the residents to be outdoors out here with some paving and some masonry seat walls. So did that cover that?
And if we could go forward to look at the area between the two buildings, my sense of the comment was there was a desire for better access from unit, say, 2, comes down the stairs, then needs to get to a car and wanted a more direct path. And I submitted an updated landscaping plan that Chuck prepared, showing a narrow opening to facilitate that.
Yeah, we have a little, couple of more concrete steps right through here, so this person can come out and shoot through here, kind of like that. So, didn't show up in this plan.
My comments indicated I recognize a trade-off that did provide a slightly better access to the parking area, but invites a little more inquisitive activity from people wandering around the neighborhood. My preference would be to keep it solid, but I'm happy to go either way.
Okay. So the next item, one board member would like to see minor refinement made to the division wall between the adjacent balconies on the south side with a slope and a slight trim top to match the other architecture. I believe that has been incorporated, and you see it in the front elevation and west, that would be the west and the south elevations. There we go. When that's the unit in front. We need to go to the four-unit building there. Keep going, keep going. There we go. So if you look at the front elevation to the extreme right, that would be
I think this will only show up in the angled view.
And again.
Probably the last page or towards the rear.
There it is, the sloping wall that is outlined against the trees on the right side. That is a dividing wall between decks. And you see that also in the south elevation, which would be the right side. And if you can go down one and over there, okay. So where is that wall?
Is it this thing?
No.
It shows on the photo sim.
The photo sim, yes, probably.
The 3D shows that it's now
Oh, there we go.
as suggested.
Yeah, there's the wall, right there. No, between the two, to the right. To the right, that thing right there. So I think that accomplishes that. Next item, one board member feels that real landscaping or brick patterns would be better than the proposed artificial turf in the driveway ribbon. And I believe that has that been accomplished?
Yes, it should show in the landscape plan. Right at the front of the driveway.
We have gravel cobble at this point. It's like, grapefruit-sized rock.
There's no artificial turf there anymore.
That matches that's concrete strips, right? Concrete driveway? Yeah, okay. The board looks forward to successful distribution of the partially resolved trash locations. If possible, introduce return walls where the trash is indicated to remain on the landscaping plan, and I believe that has been demonstrated previously. So the trash carts have been moved inside, and is that a curb or a wall along there? Just curious.
It's just a curb.
A curb with landscaping in front of it.
But this is a solid piece of
Yes, that's solid, yeah. In that case, and I believe in the case of the other storage units, rather than thicken the walls, they have a solid block of building, which achieves the same feeling. So it says trash carts have been relocated further from view. Site and landscaping plans are now consistent. Walls along the south side have been thickened while creating exterior storage. We covered that. The board looks forward to a color board. I believe that was provided, and this is what I have that was from the architect. I don't know if you have that.
So it looks like it's, if you could just click over to the next PDF there, it looks like it's right there. Nope.
At the top,
Oh, I
tab,
see, sure.
color board PDF.
There we go.
There you go.
So those are the proposed colors, and in response to the comment. So then the next item, vinyl windows are acceptable given they are recessed from exterior surface of the walls, and a decorative trim is provided on the surrounds. I believe that has been accomplished as well, especially now that the front wall is thicker wall, the exterior walls are thicker walls. It is now possible to recess those windows and have more emphasis on the trim. And the last item, provide an arborist report for protection measures for both oak trees. I believe you have that, or someone has it.
It has been submitted.
Okay, great.
That's it.
All right, anything else to add? You wanted to do a,
It might have been useful for the public to see the 3D animation, but if the ABR is not particularly keen to see that, I'll just mention that anyone from the public can see that animation at 515westlosolivos.com.
okay. We can play it. Let's just do it.
Let's see it.
Wait, hold on a second.
Which way do we face?
Either one.
Either one.
Oh, there we go.
The reason we don't have trees on the right there is because the neighbor right on the other side of the fence has big ones, and they're not shown here.
The 3D animation didn't pick up the replacement of the artificial turf. But I see it does have the mailbox properly relocated.
That's good. Okay. Thanks. All right, so with that, we can open public comment for this item.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I currently do not have any participants via Zoom and no speaker slips. We did receive the written correspondence from Steve Johnson, which was distributed to the board prior to the meeting. Back to you.
Okay, we'll close public comment and go to questions from the board. Ms. Anderson, would you like to start?
Sure. One of the comments was to provide more open yard amenities in between the two buildings. So could you describe what kind of amenities you see happening in that area?
I want to take that. I'll be candid, we did not add any.
Okay.
Because of the concern of vandalism and graffiti that they tend to attract. And just my experience from managing similar property is that sharing is not easily done among the tenants. One tenant will abuse it, leave a mess for the next tenant to clean up.
Mm-hmm. Is this area being used as part of the stormwater management?
There is a large cistern underneath that
Yeah.
area.
Okay. Yeah, those are my questions.
Okay, Vice Chair Six?
No questions.
Mr. Black?
No, I don't have any either.
Mr. Noon?
No, thank you.
Mr. Whelan?
Yes, please pardon my feeble memory, but it's been about 20 months since we've seen this project. Can you please remind me if any of the existing one-story structure out on the street is remaining?
No, fully
No.
removed.
But does this reflect the existing, shall we say, footing? Or is that all erased?
All erased.
All erased, thank you. That's really my only question.
Okay. My only question has to do with the window. You mentioned that it'll be recessed. Is there a detail yet for that?
I'm not sure that was maybe the right characterization. There's, it's the same hardy plank siding, and the walls are no different in width. It's just that there is wood planking, or wood trim all the way around it. Not even 1 by 2 by wood trim.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else follow-up question before we go to comments? Nope. Okay. Well, let's move to comments. Who would like to start?
I had a couple, just go briefly here. Let's see, could you go back to the front elevation of the larger building in the back? Assume this will get worked out as you develop the detail, but that opening with the little gable, it seemed a little odd, a little, pinched at the corners. I don't know if the roof needs to raise up or the opening needs to lower. That just seemed a little strange. And then to the left of that, over the door, centering that overhang over the door.
Right here.
Yeah. And then I did just want to comment on the material below, below the horizontal siding that I'd probably defer to the rest of the board, but that seemed a little less successful than above. But I'll hold off any further comment.
You're talking about the stucco?
Yeah,
At the
just,
base?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my comments for now. Thanks.
Mr. Whalen?
Sure, thank you. Let's see. This project has come a long way, and I appreciate the attention to the detail and reflecting the bungalow, but tearing off to Member Noon's comment, the garage opening still seems a little weak, and somehow that corner flimsiness should be addressed. Let's see, probably off our radar, when I looked at the bike storage room in the ground floor of the 2-storage, I didn't see how it would work. But to counter that, I noticed that you had specified peak racks, which are a high-density rack, and they'll work just fine in there, but not in that layout, because you really couldn't get bikes in and out.
There.
You'd have to go to the first floor plan.
Right, well, the required bicycle parking is
Yes.
all accommodated inside the ground floor area of the fourplex.
Right.
The storage units, I'm thinking they're more for surfboards. We don't show bicycle racks in there, I don't believe.
Well, we'll clear this up in a minute. First floor, 2-story unit,
Oh, in the 2-story unit.
2-story unit.
Is that it?
There's, I believe, just one possible bike rack underneath the stairwell.
I'm mistaken, I must have seen
And
something
one in the back
else.
patio. For the front duplex, there's
Yeah.
the ground floor studio has a outdoor area with a bike parking space in it. And then the upstairs unit has a bike parking space under the stairwell.
Yeah. I must have seen a different drawing. I'll withdraw that comment. The only other comment I have, and I'm not too set on it, I'll defer to other members, is if you go to the 3D model, would it be the west face? Yes, on the upper left corner there. There seems to be a long expanse of roof line. Now, this may only be visible from the freeway, but I will defer to other members if they think that that could use some breakup. And then finally, this type of building with tuck-under parking are always, to my eye, awkward. I think this one is somewhat forgivable in that its site location, it doesn't have a big impact on the neighbors or on the dwellings themselves. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Black, do you have any comments to add?
No, I think it's a nice project. You know, it's thoughtful, and I sort of appreciate the improvements, but overall, I think it's a handsome project, and the landscape is, I think, is well thought out and well planted, and I think for me, I think it's ready for PDA. But
Okay. Vice Chair Six?
Yeah, I don't have any trouble with this final rendition. I think that the applicant has responded well to our comments, and I resonate with what Board Member Whelan said about the floating awkwardness of the span over the garage, that it's hidden from primary view, and when you do view it, it's very well camouflaged. I don't quite understand Mr. Noon's idea about the gable end at the garage entry. Perhaps I think what could alleviate what he's referring to is a less pitch on that. So the overhang extends over the pedestrian entry and on the left-hand side, and perhaps the rest of the roofs could come down that from what, 4 and 12? Is it a 4 and 12 pitch?
I don't know
Looks
off
like
the
it.
top of my head.
Maybe it's. I don't want to go there. I think it's a. I appreciate the movement since last time, and I think the project is ready for PDA.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
I also think this is ready for project design approval. I think a mass bulk and scale is appropriate. I think the architectural style is appropriate, and look forward to the detailing.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think it's made some significant improvements. I don't think you need the little gable end at the garage entrance. It just seems tacked on and unnecessary at this point. The colors overall seem maybe a little heavy, and maybe they could be lightened up a little bit. But that's something you could continue to study as far as I'm concerned. Any other comments? And who would like to craft a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
permission?
Sure.
Before you go into action, I would like to comment about the pitched gable at the garage entrance, because I happen to agree with that comment. So I would like to ask the owner, what is the height of the header of that gable? the opening? What is the height of the garage door opening?
I don't know exactly. It looks like 8 foot to me.
So
It's got to be at least 8 foot 2 inches.
is that,
Has to be at least 8 foot 2
Oh, it
inches
does.
for
It does.
ADA access
oh,
to
that's
get a
it.
van in.
That's it. Okay, okay. Because I think that what looks pinched is that where the header meets the column is very skinny.
It's very tight.
And if it was possible maybe to get some kind of a corbel element on either side, so you could still get your van in there, but somehow thicken up the support for the, and it could be very craftsman, by the way.
Yeah, I think
And
there's
even
ways to do
if you extend the eave over the pedestrian entrance so that the gable was not symmetrical, you would have kind of a Swiss chalet craftsman treatment.
Okay.
If that's fair to say. Unequal.
Sure. Okay,
That's one way to,
that could be a possibility, absolutely. Okay, we need to craft a motion. Would somebody like to take a stab at that? Ready?
I move that this project receives project design approval and indefinite continuance back to the full board with the following comments. We appreciate the improvements to the project and that's my only comment. So unless someone else has anything they want to add.
Should we fiddle with the, should we?
Are you going to second this motion?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
a second under discussion.
Great.
Address a restudy of the gable end to the entry garage.
Mr. Six, pardon the interruption. Can you get a little closer to the
Oh,
mic?
sorry,
Thank
I'm
you.
too relaxed, excuse me. To restudy the gable end to the entry garage, to either provide a different configuration that's less pinched with the support elements below it, or even to eliminate it entirely and/or introduce trellage or some other element.
Sure, that's fine.
So that's it?
Yeah,
Short and sweet?
yeah, I
Okay.
think so. Come back for final.
All right, any additional discussion?
Chair Moore, did you
Yes.
want to add something about the colors?
Well, that's the maker of the
I
motion.
I didn't understand what a heavy color would be. We have a almost linen white. Is the renderings that look deeper or what?
My comments were that the colors overall felt heavy, but if that's not,
What's heavy mean?
just dark, and it makes the building itself feel more bulky and larger potentially. If it was a lighter combination, that it might feel a little less massive, but
I think you need the
Okay.
the darker to contrast with the white trim and, make it sing.
okay.
I don't know what the,
I agree. I think the color scheme is fine. I mean, you can change it if you want, but I would continue to have the base as a darker than the wood siding above.
okay, so no mention of colors in the motion.
Okay, if that's it, then let's take our vote.
Thank you, Chair Morrow. I'll take the roll call vote.
Wait, we need to do.
Oh,
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
after compatibility findings.
We're out of practice. So we have to-
Me too.
All right. We find that this project is consistent with design guidelines applicable to the location. This project is compatible with the architectural character of the city and neighborhood with this particular architectural style. It's appropriate in size, mass, bulk, height, and scale in this location. There are no adjacent landmarks or historic resources that we know of. This project does not impede in any public views or of the ocean or mountains, and it has appropriate use of open space and landscaping.
Okay, let's take our vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One question. So does this mean that we are free to move ahead with construction drawings and come back here for final, or do you want to see in progress, or what?
We didn't ask for an in-progress review, so it's up to you how you want to
So we
proceed.
have a clear shot to finish detailing this project.
If you would
Okay.
like.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And then staff would just want to announce the 10-day appeal period that follows a project design approval as well. Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to item number 4.
Chair Moore?
Yes.
I have to go to the other side of the table for this one.
Okay, so you recuse yourself.
I recuse myself.
Great. All right, so this is a continued item for project design approval, 414 West Cannon Perdido Street. And the proposed project is a two-story, two-unit residential building using the AUD program. The project includes two 932-square-foot bedroom units, two bedroom units, correct. The proposed density on the 3,529-square-foot lot is 25 units per acre. The proposal includes two covered parking spaces in a 448-square-foot garage. Project design approval is requested, and the project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings and the urban design guidelines, and was last year, October 31st of 2022. If we could have those minutes up. for things. Okay. So the overall mass, bulk, and scale is acceptable. Site arrangements, including the main entry and site circulation, are acceptable. Planting plan is acceptable. Applicant shall continue to study ways to bring the materials into more compatibility with the neighborhood, including colors, details, framing, corner boards, belly boards, in a way to satisfy the applicant's desire for the project to be contemporary in nature. Okay. Welcome back. If you could introduce yourself.
Alan McLeod
Selves.
Alan McLeod with A34 Studio,
Lauren with A34 Studio.
and I'm going to pass it over to Lauren today. I'm
Great.
just here to be good looking.
Yes, okay. Yes, thank you for your comments from last time. We took a closer look at the immediate neighborhood and particularly this block of Cannon Perdido to address your concerns. And so I'm going to start by looking at some of these existing buildings and materials. You'll see most of them have wood siding or one has plaster. We have colors of blue on this side, and on the opposite side we also have more wood siding with white, gray, yellow, but pretty like muted colors, nothing too bright, nothing too outspoken. You'll also see in some of these images the different fences that are currently in the neighborhood, along with some of these stone walls. Some are CMU, some have CMU with plaster that's falling off, and some have a slump block. Where was that? You can kind of see it, it's right there. Not a good photo. Okay, so let me go to page 12. So what we did after looking at the neighborhood is we went with the horizontal wood siding and just a standard like clapboard or shiplap, and went with a white color on the siding. The smaller section on the left here is a plaster, and I'll get to the colors in a minute. As also on this gable form, we looked at trimming out the windows and putting in the belly board and the corner trim, also a fascia board. And I have some details to show you on that. We did do minimal sizing on that to continue with our contemporary feel of the architecture style here. We still have the CMU 3'6" wall in front, and we are still proposing the perforated metal panels for the garage door. So something that you know about this neighborhood, all of these lots, except the one that we are proposing on, are long and skinny, and you're able to park in the back. So unfortunately, we had to park in the front, and instead of doing a traditional garage door, we were wanting to kind of play off the chain link fence across the way and with the neighbors and use a perforated metal panel for the garage doors and make it less of a intrusion of a garage door. All right. If we go to our color board, it definitely looks more pink on the screen than I would like. But the plaster is supposed to be more of like a muted tan color, mission color from Integrated Plaster. We're looking at dark anodized window frames, white clapboard or wood siding, and just a natural CMU color block. All right, and then for the detailing, you can see right here on the screen, number 3, this is our belly board that captures the horizontal siding. We also have in plan view, you can see our corner board. This belly board continues all around that one block of the 2-story. Same with up on the rooftop, you have your fascia board, captures the wood siding, and our window trim also. On the windows where we have wood siding has a wood trim, and then our plaster windows are set back. All right. I think that addresses all of the comments. Landscape was updated. I did forget to invite her here, but you can ask her any questions if you want. That's my presentation.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we can open public comment.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I do not have any speaker slips. We do not have any virtual participants at this time, and we did not receive any written correspondence. So back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, let's close public comment and go to questions. Vice Chair Six, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I forget what, your plasters, your soffit in the garage is 1x5 PTD. What's the PTD? Pressure treated?
Pressure treated.
What is it? PTD. What is that?
Oh, I think it's painted.
Oh, painted wood. Okay. Very good. So is that beveled or notched or?
The soffit?
The soffit, yeah. Are they?
Oh,
Are they big planks or?
good question. Not sure.
Most likely it'll be a 1x6
Like tongue and groove?
tongue and groove.
Tongue and groove?
Square joint. Not
Square
with-
joint,
Yeah, well, not with the bevel.
but it'll have a recessed joint.
Yes.
Okay. And just for clarity, I think one of your details still has cedar siding on that.
Probably.
And your CMU exposed block, you're not willing to plaster that or paint it? It's just, well, I'm getting your comments. That's your proposal, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
It can be detailed and trimmed out with the the raking.
Yeah, deep rakes.
Just a deep rake
Yeah.
so that it looks finished. It's not going to be a rough,
Right.
raking, so.
Well, the danger of, with the existing architecture up down the street, exposed concrete block would look like you ran out of money. But, so all detailing is, important. And the garage door material, did you show that to us?
It's going to be similar to this. It's just a perforated metal panel that's going to be framed out. And
Are you
there's
proposing it to be diagonal or?
No, square.
square? There's a hatch on there.
There's the hatch.
Oh, the hatch, okay. And, okay. And then just detail, I noticed that on your plans, the inside, can we go to the plans? In the garage opening, I think somewhere I got the idea that on the outside, before you get to the garage doors, it's plaster, but on the inside, I noticed it was somewhere, it was just simply called for drywall.
Oh, yeah, that's at this jam. This door
No,
jam.
that inside the garage, it's called out for drywall
Yes,
on that shared wall.
right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's drywall? You want that to be drywall instead of plaster, exterior condition?
It's type X, I don't know. We can do
it
plaster.
if we need to wrap it in. Doors will be closed, pretty much all the time. So it's only going to be a scene condition if the doors are left open.
Yeah, I was thinking of maintenance and so forth, so I'll leave that up to you. Okay, that's my questions.
Mr. Black, any questions?
I'm going to hold my questions for now.
Okay, Mr. Noon?
No questions.
Mr. Whalen?
None here either.
Okay, I don't have any questions either. Questions now?
Is it about landscape?
No.
Okay.
So, could we go back to the one comment in the minutes, the one where they asked you to, I can't remember how that was worded. It was the last item, I think. Okay, so could you kind of reiterate what you did detail-wise, colored, framing, the belly boards and corner boards, yeah, I got that. But is that sort of the major portion of the work that was done?
Well, we
In
also.
terms of bringing it into neighborhood compatibility? I guess that's my issue.
Sure. We also turned the siding horizontal instead of going vertical, which we were at before. We did lap siding now, so it gives it more of a shadow and similar to all the other homes on the street versus a butt joint and no reveal or any shadow. And then we also trimmed out the windows on that portion. And then as far as colors, I feel like our palette's pretty muted, just like the other colors on the street.
Colors being the,
Mission tan plaster on the one portion of the building, and then the white
is that the
wood
one you showed a
siding.
sample of?
Yeah, well,
Well, it looks pink though, doesn't it?
it's
It's not pink.
Yeah, the sample arrived and I missed the FedEx guy, so it's
So it's not that
it's
color?
not, it doesn't print the same way it looks on the screen versus what it rendered, so it's just a muted, like, mauve, beige, tan.
Okay. I'm still having an issue with neighborhood compatibility. I mean, I understand where you're going with the more contemporary flair to the architecture. I guess it's just whether, in my mind, whether you've done enough to make that judgment in terms of compatibility.
Are you talking about the nature of how they handled the trim and compared with what's around them, or what's?
I'm not an architect, but I mean, the building, in my mind, comes across as pretty contemporary compared to the neighborhood. So, I mean, it's going to stand out for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but in terms of making compatibility findings, I think maybe a little bit of a challenge for me. But, so I just wanted to be clear about what effort was made since the last time we saw you to address that particular comment, so.
Yeah, I guess from the comment, I mean, it says the overall mass, bulk, and scale and arrangement on the site was acceptable, so we kept that and then
Yeah.
worked at the detailing to add the trim so it adds more shadow and creates more interest than like a more contemporary flat plane. And I actually think it'll fit in nicely with the neighborhood with the detailing. I mean, I personally do, so.
Okay. Those are my only questions.
Okay.
I did think of a question. Can you go to the detail page quickly? I just wanted to I think it was detail 4. How will that corner piece be attached?
Yeah, we talked about doing, there's some metal profiles that you can actually attach it to. It's like a crisscross. You can attach that to the wall and then attach the trim to that and then butt the siding into it. We looked at how that might occur.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Before we go to comments? Okay. Let's go to comments. Who would like to start? Mr. Whalen? Go ahead.
I'll start with no comments.
Okay. Mr. Noon?
I just have a couple. Can you go to an elevation of the existing conditions adjacent? I think you referenced a chain link fence.
I did.
And that was your inspiration, I guess, for the garage door. I guess I would, I don't find that as successful. I think just a simple door that's rational to, the building rather than the fence would be more successful, but. And then just overall, I concur with Board Member Black. It's a very attractive architecturally significant building. I don't find the compatibility, but I'll defer to the rest of the board to see where that goes.
Okay. Mr. Black, do you want to?
Yeah, well, I guess I've made that clear, but it just seems like there are details that I see, for instance, in those houses there. I mean, it's just, the boxy clipped eaves, it just, and then the window treatments to me just seem very simple and modern, as opposed to picking up more of a traditional, I don't know, there's just, it's a tough situation, but I don't know, I would defer to some of the other members of the board, but compatibility I'm having an issue with.
Okay. Vice Chair Six, any comments?
Well, it's obvious that the applicant wants to do a contemporary building here, and every time we get closer and closer to something that's compatible with the that's close enough compatible to the surroundings to be acceptable, and I think they're almost there. I think that, and material-wise, I do think that something more than the exposed CMU block, that just stands out when it's in context to, you know, the other buildings. It will, even though stacked and deeply raked, it just, you know, I could see it being either plastered or painted with a rich color. I just don't think that that's my last straw to get this over the compatibility issue. And I don't think Mr. Noon understands that the garage doors are not going to be chain link. They'll be this perforated, which would I don't mind. I don't see it relating to the chain link at all. And just another minor issue. I think that I understand you're minimizing the trim and so forth down to sizes, but I think that the 3-inch gutter will be unfortunate and look undersized. So I think you just do a normal size gutter there. So with the exception, to summarize, with the exception of the CMU exposed block, I could find that this is close enough to compatibility that, you know, I could approve it.
Okay. Can you put the rendering up on the screen? Thank you. Yeah, I think, you know, with the lot size being what it is and trying to squeeze the 2 parking spaces in front with and having to cantilever that corner, I mean, it would be, I don't know, looking at this in isolation, the form kind of responds to the parking requirements, to the size of the lot, all of those things, and that's moving the design into a more contemporary nature, which I understand. I think that by adding the horizontal siding, I think that sort of, you know, tips the hat towards the neighbors. I do wish that there was a little bit more similarity in the trim of how you handled the trim, and that I think would really sort of make that connection. It doesn't have to be like a big 1x6 board, but something that's a little more visible and identifiable as, you know, this is the trim piece. I think that would help as well. And I do agree that with Vice Chair Six, I think handling the CMU block differently, I think would help as well, kind of knit it into the neighborhood fabric as well. So I think just with some very subtle changes that, in addition to what you've done in this round of updates, would really kind of help, I think, bring it together. And then I think, well, I don't know, speaking for myself, then I think it would be much easier to find that it's compatible with the neighborhood. And I think you might get some more support from other board members as well. But let's see, does somebody want to craft a motion?
Well, let's do a I think we're close enough to make specific items. I hear, I think the rest of the board should weigh, I think we get mutual comments on the exposed concrete block, but you also mentioned the trim. I think that we should measure this with the rest of, ask the rest of the board whether they would find one or both required to send this over the compatibility line. So I propose a straw vote on, is the exposed concrete stacked bond deep rake block material acceptable in lights of the compatibility analysis?
Let's take a vote on that.
Thank you, Chair Moore. Chair Moore?
No.
Vice Chair Six?
No.
Board Member Black?
Nope.
Board Member Noon?
No.
Board Member Whalen?
No.
The noes have it.
Okay, then a second is the minimalized trim at the belly board and around the windows acceptable acceptable in light of the compatibility issue? Is that a well-defined question?
It is. I'm not sure how to answer.
Is this trim the same as this trim
Yes. The two on each side?
on each side?
Yeah, they're the same. They'll obviously shadow out differently
Oh,
with the sun sitting on them.
I see.
So they're actually quite deep because the
Okay.
windows are set in.
I can see that now.
Yeah.
Right. And my comment has to do with the height of the trim or the width of the trim around in relationship to what is more traditionally seen in that neighborhood.
So is that a fair question, and should we take a reading on that?
Well, I think we could have some discussion on it before we do a straw
Okay.
vote. I mean, I'm interested to hear what this side of the board, the table has to say as far as materials, trim, that sort of thing. Is everybody happy over there, or what's the consensus?
I'll have to pass.
I think the approach of the material is in the right direction, with the exception of the metal on the garage door. But I think the materiality is in the right direction.
Any thoughts, Mr. Black?
Well,
I'm sorry, back to Mr. Noonwood. You vote no on compatibility with the garage door material.
Oh, I don't know that I would want to stop it because of the garage material. I mean, I think it's broader than that.
We're trying to get specific materials here that will put them over the acceptable edge here.
Is it materials or is it detail?
You say. I think it's material. Well, like, if you, okay, it's also detail is what Chair Moore is recommending or quizzing on whether the window trim around the windows and the belly board should be wide and flat against the wall as typically in the neighbors, instead of standing on edge and very thin.
That would be a question I would ask too, for sure.
Yes or no? Would it be?
Oh,
Is it a deal breaker?
to.
the way they have it designed.
Well, I think every little bit helps.
So yes, it is a deal breaker.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I would feel happier if the detail around the windows was a little bit more, I'll say traditional, but something more compatible with the neighbors. Maybe that, and over and above everything else, I think that would help a lot.
Okay.
You know, along with the siding, which you've already done, obviously, so. I don't know, I mean. Is that it's almost like I have to see it to say, yeah, I like it.
So
Sort of unfair.
So I'll make a motion for PDA with the ability to make compatibility findings as presented, except to either paint or plaster the CMU exposed block. And to, that's it.
I can pull up the findings as well, if that would help.
Well,
Let's see if we
let's-
get there first.
let's see if we get there first.
Do we have a second for that?
Whoa, okay.
I'll second it. And under discussion, I think we should be specific about the block. I don't know that painted is going to do it. So is there,
Yeah, in my mind, so I would be very comfortable with a plastered block.
plaster block?
Which is acceptable to us.
We went black. There we go. Okay. Um, Anything else to add to that motion?
Are we only talking about the block now?
Mm-hmm.
No discussion about the windows then?
No, that's the way I stated it.
you're leaving it
We're-
as is.
I'm testing the metal of you guys.
Well, let's do the compatibility findings and then we'll take a vote.
All right, so that we can find project compatibility, that it is within tolerances of the design guidelines applicable to the location of the project within the city. Number two, it's within, what did I say? Tolerances, acceptable tolerances of the design of the architectural qualities and characteristics which are distinctive to Santa Barbara and the particular neighborhood surrounding the project. Number three, it is appropriate size, mass, bulk, and scale. Number four, it has no relationship to adjacent landmarks or historic resources. And number five, nor does it have any relationship with public views of oceans and mountains. And number six, there is acceptable open space and landscaping.
Okay. So with that, let's take our vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
I'll go along, yes.
Board Member Noon?
No.
And Board Member Whalen?
No.
3-2, motion passes.
Okay. Would you guys like to state why you voted no?
Sure. I do not now, nor have I any of the previous reviews, found this project compatible with the immediate neighborhood in terms of its size, scale, bulk, and detailing. This little cul-de-sac is a consistent display of Victorian bungalows with front porches and front door, no garages, shed roofs, very fine detailing. I don't find any of that in the proposed design.
Okay.
I don't find compatibility.
Okay. All right, and we have to announce the appeal period as well. Appeal process is as displayed on screen now. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
Are we doing the last one?
Yes.
We
Um,
are.
Let's take a 5-minute recess, just.
Okay.
Yes.
5-minute recess. To item number 5, which is 425 Garden Street. This is a continued item for project design approval. Project consists of a construction of a 4-story, 36-unit residential complex The project proposes 2 moderate income rental units, 4 very low income rental units, and 30 market rate rental units. No parking is proposed. And the project is proposed at a density of 94.74 units per acre, which is allowable with state density bonus law. Project design approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis guidelines and was last reviewed December 12th of 2022. If we could pull up the minutes from last time, and then is there anything from staff at this time?
No, Chair, I'm just here to answer questions.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so motion that passed, ultimately, the board appreciates the changes that have been made in response to previous comments. The board feels the design, mass, bulk, and scale is appropriate for the site. However, the overall design needs to be moved in a more simplified Spanish vernacular. Refine the various elements as discussed to improve the appearance of the building, verify the location and serviceability of the electrical transformer. Okay. All right, well, with that, welcome back. And if you could
Thank you.
walk us through how your response to that motion.
Yes, thank you. Greg Wrights, the project applicant. Yes, we started this process with the goal of building a sustainable housing project with rents that are accessible to people that want to live in the downtown area of Santa Barbara, but have a hard time finding a place or finding one that's affordable. So we still are pursuing that goal. We started with our first design review in November of 2021, and the project has evolved quite significantly since then. And we hope that that we've come up with something that everyone can support. The general guidance from the last hearing was to simplify the approach while still evoking a Spanish colonial style, but not trying to emulate it. So that was what the approach was when, in the case where there were details that could be simplified and to create an overall whole that was a little bit more cohesive and simple, we attempted to do so. We went through the video and listened to all of the comments and tried to address them all. I'm not going to go through each one individually this time. I'm going to present the building and some highlights of changes that were made and leave it to you to ask any questions. Just starting with a new perspective from down Gutierrez, you see the bakery on the corner in the foreground and the building in the background. Coming further down Garden to a zoomed up view, this view is to show a few different changes. First, the door to the trash room got a lot of attention in previous hearings. What we've done is we've moved the hardware to the inside of the wall so that door now slides on the inside, so there's a reveal in the facade, but that also allows for planting on either side of it, so to detract from any, to not make it the focus of that facade. The balconies above have been cantilevered 2.5 feet into the foreground to break up the boxiness of that piece of the building, which also was a concern of the board. And then in working with the landscape architect, we introduced the bougainvillea and are planning to buy a specimen bougainvillea to train it up that corner. And those can be bought pretty mature at great heights. So that can start, that's not just a future view, that could be the initial view of that corner. Oops, sorry, wrong button. Moving around to the front, some other changes are apparent here. Well, actually, sorry, I can go back. Before there was a character line between this corner and the front bump out. It is now actually in relief. There's a 4-inch relief there. That also helped surprisingly a lot with the layout of the units above, in that area. So I'm going to get the wrong, I did it again. Okay, so coming around to the front, what this view shows that the other didn't is the balconies. This balcony detail is essentially lifted from Felinda Court, which is a project that was built recently as an AUD. It is 4 feet 6 inches in depth, whereas it was 5 feet. The ones we showed before were 5 feet. The only thing that's different than the detail used for that project are the pilaster. Well, I'm not an architect. The supports are a little bit simpler than what they used. All right, moving to the entrance. We've simplified the entrance pretty significantly and reduced the impact of the archway. It's no longer a statement archway. It's a nice entrance for what we think is appropriate for a residential building. The shed roof has been pulled over the top of that, so extending that clay tile roof. And that's essentially the majority of the changes here. There's other minor changes in the detailing, but again, mostly an attempt to simplify. And then a view down from the Haley corner, looking back at the building. And coming back around to the broader view from the front. The railings on the upper deck were changed. We went kind of back and forth on this, but got rid of a parapet and made that more open. And then if I can switch to the plans. Quickly on the transformers. So we read and communicated with the author of the SoCal Edison ESR, electrical service requirements, for the transformer. And then she put us in contact with the right person at Edison. And so that transformer location is acceptable to them. It has moved a little bit from what we had before, and the setbacks are slightly changed. Just FYI, their caveat was that will require a crane when it needs to be replaced, so that there may be a delay if we need a replacement in the future to service that location. So we did study an alternative location at the front of the lot, which may reduce the size of the patio for Unit 108, but we did confirm that both locations would work. And then finally on to the landscape plan. Oh, I didn't get the color one in here. Oh, there it is. Skipped it. Inside the courtyard, well, this doesn't show on the landscape plan. I can show it in plan, but the balconies for the upper units that face the courtyard, I'll have Juliet balconies now to allow kind of just more open feeling in the courtyard, more usable feeling in the courtyard, and allow more light down into it. The planting has been increased. The planters at the back, so the bottom of this plan, are now curved to kind of embrace the central fountain better, and the walls of those planters are now at seating height, so they're meant to double as a seating area to make the courtyard more inviting and functional. Well. Oh. And oh, one other thing I skipped here. We finally finally relented and added a door from the bike room to the street. So there will be no congestion in the main entrance of the residential area. The bikes will be able to move freely. That did result in a loss of some landscaping, so there's a little bit of a staging area. So once the bikes come out, they can stay off the sidewalk on private property without having any conflict with pedestrians. And I think, okay, and then go down. One other change, this archway between the bungalow and the building was pushed back from the street. It was simplified pretty significantly, which allowed for the windows to wrap around the corner. So it's less of a prominent element, but we felt like it was still important to bring the building into scale with the adjacent property. So that's it for my presentation. I know there's lots of things that were commented on, and I'm happy to go through them in Q&A.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be helpful if you could go back to the elevations.
Sure.
And just go through those slowly.
Sure.
For everybody.
Okay.
Because you had mentioned a couple of tweaks that you made, and
yep,
it's easiest to identify on the elevations, I think.
Sure. Yeah. So, do you want me to identify them, like re-identify them? Okay. Okay. So changes in this view, starting over here, this archway was recessed. That's what I was just speaking of. This shed roof used to end here, and there was a more prominent archway here. So the archway has become diminished, and the shed roof has been pulled in front here. This element is hard to read in this elevation. Maybe we'll see it better in another one, but, oh, excuse me, this, you can read this. This used to go straight up. So it lent itself to a much more blocky feeling for this end of the building. So it's been pushed out 2.5 feet. So it has a slight cantilever now to break up this edge. We showed, and it won't show in this elevation, but maybe in another, the relief here now. This railing is different. It used to have a parapet with the shorter columns, pilasters. It's now more open. All of the exterior balconies were changed, and I described the approach we took to the design to make it more integrated with the building. I think I talked about the trash door being moved to the inside of the wall to create relief and make it less prominent. This opening is different. It's more simplified.
Okay. Let's open public comment. Good.
Thank you, Chair Moore. If anyone participating via Zoom would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing any raised hands. We did receive written correspondence from Richard Lloyd, which was distributed to the board prior to the meeting, and I don't have any speaker slips. So back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, let's go to questions from the board. Ms.
Yes, I
Anderson?
have- oh.
Would you like to start?
Sure. What are the materials of the balconies? Specifically like the support material?
It's,
Just plaster?
it's meant to match the stucco.
Okay. And then can we go to the first floor plan, please?
There we go.
Okay. I was just curious why, or what the reasoning was for the two different size windows in the bike room. And I wasn't sure if you had the answer to that.
Okay, I can go. So, are you talking, so these two are the
No,
same and this
two
is a door now?
windows, the two windows to,
These-
yeah, those two.
these
Just-
two.
Yeah, curious why they're different sizes.
No, I don't
Okay.
know.
All right, and then the horizontal banding between the first and second floor, is that a reveal in the plaster, or in the cement boards?
You mean, does it have dimension?
Yes, like, is there a space between the boards to, like, create like a shadow, a reveal?
Yes.
Okay. And then, do you happen to have the size of the address numbers that
Uh-huh.
you're showing on there?
No, but
Okay.
you can tell me what you'd like to see.
I was just curious.
Sean just texted me. He said the two windows are different sizes to relate to the windows above.
Got it, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay. I don't know where I was going. I think those are my questions.
Okay. Vice Chair Six?
Are you still proposing a color change at the recessed tower?
Yeah, it just doesn't show well in the renderings.
and that
We'll
would-
show that at final approval.
But the little balconies and with the three arched are going to be the same color as the rest of the building, so the tower is the only thing that's different?
No, those had been included in the color, the different color scheme.
And then I'm just going to verify that the tower eave and molding overhang is different and than the rest of the building. Correct?
This eave you're talking about
Yeah.
here, being different than
The
than
rebalance.
this.
Yeah.
It does appear different in the elevations.
Yes. Okay.
And I'll confirm whether it is truly different.
All right, thanks. That's my questions.
Okay. Mr. Black?
No questions right now.
Mr. Noon?
No questions.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes, Mr. Reeds, could you go to the section through the courtyard?
This one?
The other direction, from entry to the east-west.
They're both on the same page.
Were they?
There, it's at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, it's at the bottom.
Oh. So originally, when you came to us, the courtyard had quite a rake or a slope. Has that changed? It looks like it still has some slope to it.
Our goal is to reduce it to the minimum amount required for drainage, for, whatever our civil engineer tells us we need. It is subject to accessibility standards, so there's a chance we may need to increase that slope again, but the hope is that there's enough access to the courtyard that it doesn't need to come from the rear, which is what's driving that requirement.
So is there some slope shown on this section, number 2? It looks like there may be a minimal amount.
Yes.
Something like that.
That's
That's fine,
correct,
thank you.
yes.
That's all my questions.
Okay, and if we go back to the elevations.
And Sean responded, he said the details of the two cornices can be the same.
Okay. You talk about a metal-clad window Is that like a dark bronze color metal on the exterior? What's, and it's aluminum window, I'm assuming?
The expectation is that it will be an aluminum clad wood window. And that, it'll be in a color that we can get aluminum in, so dark bronze is most likely the direction.
Okay. All right.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So we're looking at this elevation, and the main windows, those windows in the bike room that we were just referring to have a certain sill height. And I recognize that the windows on the right-hand side of the building are in back of a raised lobby out of the flood zone, et cetera, et cetera. But can that sill be dropped down and have much less of a sill height in relationship to the floor and match the sill height of the bike room? You might have to wait for Canada to respond.
Wait for my phone to vibrate. But yeah, I remember discussing with Sean, and we did raise the height of the windows in the lobby because we felt like after additional consideration that was a more private space, and that bringing the sills down to the floor level would invite kind of more visibility into the space. If it's important to the design, I think we'd be happy to consider keeping that line all the way across.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to comments? No? Okay. Mr. Whalen, you want to start?
No comments, Chair Moore.
Okay. Mr. Noon?
No, I don't have any comments at this time.
Okay. Mr. Bly? They can be positive or negative. Remember.
Well, I guess the AUD ordinance, besides not requiring parking, doesn't really require much landscape either, because I'm a little bit concerned about, you've got some out here on Garden Street, but everything else is just, looks like it's paved out to the property line with no greenery at all, which I think is unfortunate, given the size and bulk and scale of this building. But I guess I wish there were some opportunities. So there's no opportunities to do any tree planting anywhere? I mean, I realize these side yards, rear yards are really tight, but
we're in comments now, so.
Yeah, we're in comments. So my comment is, I wish that there was more opportunity, because I know that this building's going to seem very dominant on its site, particularly with no landscape to sort of soften it the way that these existing trees do. And I think that's unfortunate. I guess one comment, you showed a part of the rendering with the bougainvillea on the corner there. Are those coming out of planters? Is that the intent there, as opposed to planting in the ground?
May I answer?
Oh.
Yeah, we needed more soil there in consideration that the footings may be coming out to support the wall. So connecting to native soil underneath the planter. But yes, there's planters there to provide enough soil for a large specimen.
Okay, and my suggestion is, or at least my comment is, there's no way you're going to get bougainvillea to grow as tall as you think it is out of a planter. It just won't. It's just,
yeah.
It's too big a plant. Now, you may want to consider another vine besides bougainvillea, but if I understand what your intent is, I don't think bougainvillea is going to do it in a planter. That's just my experience with it. So,
thank you.
My only comments.
Okay. Vice Chair Six.
Yeah, I think it's much improved. I feel that
the changes that have made since last are very good and almost get us there. I think that the extended balconies on the southeast, what we call the boxiness of the southeast mass is very successful and also handles the trash doors very well. So I really appreciate the direction. I do think that there are some minor things, if you give me room. I think this interaction has been benefit. So I think that the shed entry, the archway is just a little bit pinched. An arch is supposed to represent that there's a lot of mass above it. So if that shed roof could raise up to the bottom of your iron on your balcony, and then the window around the corner be, a solid railing instead to handle the continuing pitched roof up to the tower. I think that the belly band, looks like it's about a foot or so tall. I think that should be like 4 to 6 inches. Be much more elegant, and it should not be above the lintels. That it should stop and start above the lintels on your expressed columns in the front entries, because those are proud of that. So it can stop and start, so you don't have both a lintel and then a belly band just directly above it. I don't know why the glass block got introduced back to the windows and the stairway. I think that glass block is not part of the architecture. That's on the north elevation. That if we look at the south elevation, southwest elevation, the back elevation, even though that this is a minor elevation, it would seem that the continuous eave treatment could be relieved by having no molding at the recessed openings. Do you understand what I'm saying? So,
You mean where it steps back?
where it steps back, that could be, just go straight up.
Oh, okay.
And perhaps even awnings on those 2 recessed balconies to give this a little more relief. I think I've already mentioned that the tower, the eave on the tower would be much. I like the profile of the balance of the building, so I think that should either be the tower should match the balance of the building, or let's just leave it with that. That is some inconsistencies. If we look at this elevation, the left-hand balcony has a nice molding at the base of the wrought iron at the 4th-story balcony, but the opposite side does not. So I think that should be completed. And then if we look at this same sheet, that same balcony I'm talking about, probably it would be much better to have an arched header on that door out to that balcony to match the window. And then, as I mentioned prior, I think it would be important to, I think it would be much better to have all the window sills in these, in the lobby and match the sill height at the bike room, as we discussed. And if your privacy issues, you could have
well, I think you have the height there to do that. And that the columns expressed on those types of windows should have a base as expressed at the entry. Because it has a capital, so I think it should be completed with a base. And to resonate with Mr. Black's, the lack of, or I think that generally we try to find more opportunities for landscape and significant trees, and those that we do have, you have provided, the plant selection and the landscaping should be very carefully, professionally chosen, so they are healthy and lush. But and that being said, those are minor things. But overall, I do think I appreciate the movement that it's made and where we've come to.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
I think what could also benefit on this project and make it more successful would be to study just the slight color changes. I know we had mentioned the tower is a different color, but maybe just like two different whites or a light gray or just something to give it a little bit more definition and help break up the mass. That's my only comment.
Okay. I agree. It's made some good forward movement here. I personally feel it's ready for project design approval at this point. I think you can continue to refine some of these details and landscape thoughts. There's, just a couple of kind of things that just don't sit quite right. There's, to me anyway, that I think could be more refined, like the little decorative, I don't know, there's like at the elevator tower, those little decorative, the four little whatever those are, they're sort of floating sort of uncomfortably in the middle, some not in the middle, but slightly above the middle. I don't know if they're necessary, but but I understand the intent, but they're just not quite in the right spot. Maybe there's a better way to handle that with a single opening, and maybe there's some other detail around that that's, I don't know. I agree about the glass block, that, I get the intent to provide some light in that stair tower, but there's a better way to do that, I think. So those are my comments. Anything else down here, Mr. Noon and Mr. Whalen?
I did have one or a couple. I noticed, can you go to the other elevation sheet down maybe? Over on the right, the door head, it's not in line with the windows adjacent to it. Is there a reason for that? I guess my comment is, can those be?
It's just a standard height door, and the windows were located for usability, but
Looks like that might, everything else is at the same height. That might help.
Mr. Noon, it does occur on the front side too, on the southeast balcony.
Lower?
See how that door is not quite
Slightly lower.
as
yeah.
high, yeah.
Yeah, those could be cleaned up. And then, I don't know, if you can go to the rendering of the archway on the plan, I guess it would be looking at it on the right side. Yeah. The detail at the top of that, maybe if it offset from that belly band, just a thought. Those are my only comments.
I have one more minutia.
Okay.
If we look at the drawn,
the window breakup on the smaller bike window. I think it really shows on the drawn elevations. It should be 2 vertical breakups on that smaller window to more conform. Oops. On the smaller window in the bike, you probably should have 2 breakups instead of 3 in order to match the proportions of the wider window.
Okay. Mr. Whalen, anything to add at this time?
Nothing to add, no.
Okay. All right. Should we do a straw vote as far as who feels the project is ready for project design approval, or are we all feeling good about it at this point?
Let's do it.
Okay, straw vote, please.
No.
Oh, no, not. Okay. So, fair enough. Let's craft a motion then for project design approval. Anybody? Anybody down here want to do it?
I'm happy to craft it. I'm going to need help with some of your comments, though. Mr.
Maybe
Six.
Mr. New, we can do as we did last time, as discussed. Some minor refinements to the architecture as discussed.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that the board finds design compatibility. With the following comments, the board appreciates the direction that the applicant has taken in response to the previous comments, and ask the applicant just continue to refine as discussed. Anything specific that anyone wants to point out?
I will second that motion under discussion. I think you need to announce that this is the PDA. I think you.
I think I said that.
But simply, I heard simply compatibility.
Yeah, you didn't say it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That the board finds that project design approval. I said project design compatibility.
And I do think, and David may, I do think we need to add a separate item to find where possible other opportunities for planting and significant planting heights.
Yes.
Am I saying that right?
Are you talking about verticality then?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, if there's, we should look for opportunities for additional.
And the board looks forward to careful selection of planting in those areas that are planted, and very carefully considered landscape irrigation system.
That's acceptable. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Let's read that back.
Is it seconded?
Yes, I second it.
Good.
Thank you, Chair Moore. Right now, it stands as project design approval with the following comments. The board appreciates the direction the applicant has taken in response to the previous comments. The applicant shall make minor refinements to the architecture as discussed. And then I lost part of this comment, but to find where possible other opportunities for planting and carefully consider the irrigation systems.
First of all, find more opportunities for a landscape planting of significant heights.
Some vertical massing.
Of vertical massing. And that, then a separate second to that would be look forward to careful selections of plantings and irrigation design to assure lush planting.
Okay, and then we do have to make the compatibility findings.
Okay, the board also finds that this design as presented is consistent with the design guidelines. It is compatible with the architecture and character of the city and neighborhood as presented. The board finds that it is appropriate in size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. There are no landmarks adjacent that are encroached, to our knowledge. It does not encroach on ocean or mountain views, and it is acceptable in its use of open space and landscaping.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
As a follow-up here, if I don't go on too long, I do not find this project as proposed compatible as it's overbuilt for the site. While the project has admirable intentions, bike-centric with no parking, the design really doesn't reflect in any significant way the life and use of residents as pedestrians and cyclists. The central entry off of a very narrow walkway forces bikes and pedestrians into conflicts. This entry also acts as an amplifier for the heavy traffic on Garden Street if anyone is so foolish as to want to ride a bike on Garden Street southward. The architectural style has developed well. I find the program to be just too large to permit a courtyard of significant size to be an actual amenity. 16 of the 36 apartments, which is about 45%, face a blank wall 10 feet away that's 25 feet high. Additionally, 6 of the units face only onto the courtyard, and the courtyard is really barely larger than the 2-bedroom unit. Let's see, if the design intent is to provide for a healthy and pleasurable place to live, and as an example of a carless urban living, I do not find this proposal compatible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the appeal process is on screen now. Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we can adjourn our meeting for January 23rd. Have a good night.